If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 26. Chapter 26, Dummies. Good men mean well. We just don't always end up doing well. Isaac Clarke, Dead Space 3. The opening lines were heard by everyone in the room, and throughout the audience, they attracted everyone's attention. Whether it was the upper-class people who came to participate in the auction or the police officers of the GCPD, at this moment, Phantom Thief was the eye-catching white figure. Looking at the pure Phantom Thief under the spotlight, Jim Gordon's face was full of disbelief. Like Robin, Jim couldn't believe what he was seeing. Phantom Thief. How did he appear there? His confusion was similar to Robin's earlier. They had confirmed from the surveillance footage that Phantom Thief didn't have the time to tamper with the hotel's power supply. Why did the power go out? Also, when Jim requested a recheck of the bidders in the venue, they carefully inspected the area around the stage and the surrounding area. Still, they didn't find the Phantom Thief hiding nearby. As mentioned earlier, the auction venue was divided into two areas, the entertainment area, which combined a restaurant, ballroom, and bar. The other part was the auction area. These two areas were separated by a huge curtain but were basically part of the same venue. Except for the ventilation duct Robin used to enter, there was no other entrance or exit for the auction area, so everyone had to pass through the entertainment area. The bidders were currently gathered in the large open space of the entertainment area, waiting for the police to count and verify their identities. Phantom Thief's most likely hiding place was among the bidders, but now all the bidders were under police supervision. It seemed impossible for him to appear on the stage at this moment. Who is that white guy? A voice from the crowd expressed confusion. Not everyone from the upper class was interested in daily crime news, let alone a mere thief like Phantom Thief. It was normal not to know about him. He's the Phantom Thief. Don't you know? He's become quite famous in Gotham lately. They say he's a crazy thief who likes to steal and return stolen items. There were people who didn't know, but there were also people who liked to follow the latest news. Long time no see, Commissioner Gordon, and the Wonder Boy from the Bat family. The Phantom Thief smiled and turned to look at Jim and Robin. I didn't see the pink fantasy here. It's really a pity not to witness the brilliance of the world's largest pink diamond myself. Phantom Thief spoke in a tone that seemed filled with regret. Commissioner, do you happen to know where this pink diamond is hidden? Raise your hands, Phantom Thief. We have blocked off all the exits on this floor, so you have no way out. Jim didn't answer his question, but he directly pointed his gun at Phantom Thief and warned him in a very seriously. You picked the wrong time to show up. Now that everyone has already left the auction area, you can't use the crowd as a shield anymore. If you choose to resist, the police have the right to shoot you on the spot. Phantom Thief, the crime you have committed is not yet too serious. I don't want things to get worse to the point where they can't be fixed, and I believe you don't either. If you surrender now, with a sincere attitude, and confess voluntarily, I promise to do my best to help you reduce your sentence. Faced with Jim's warning and plea for surrender, Phantom Thief's face didn't show any signs of hesitating. He continued with a distressed tone, is that so? So, the police also don't know where the item they are supposed to protect is hidden. At this moment, Robin, who was not far from the stage, suddenly furrowed his brows. Since Phantom Thief appeared, he hadn't made any physical movements, only his voice was heard. Although his expressions couldn't be clearly seen due to the weird reflection of the lenses, there was always something off about his expression. Could it be? Robin suddenly remembered a technique that Phantom Thief had used before. Sir, should we open fire? One of Jim's GCPD subordinates asked, seeing Phantom Thief showed no signs of surrender. Wait! Don't shoot! Robin suddenly shouted to stop them and then rushed to the stage as fast as possible. When Robin rushed onto the stage, the Phantom Thief standing there didn't react at all. He remained motionless in his place. Bam! Robin delivered a powerful punch to the face of Phantom Thief, and to everyone's surprise, he made a faint sound and burst like a balloon. Seeing this scene, the crowd was dumbfounded once again. It's just an inflatable dummy. Robin squatted down and searched through the remains of the shattered figure, finding a loudspeaker inside. The voice earlier was transmitted through this loudspeaker. The real Phantom Thief isn't here. So, the question is, where was the real Phantom Thief? Look over there, everyone. Phantom Thief is over there. At that moment, a sharp cry rang out from the crowd. Following the direction pointed out by the caller, the crowd could faintly and vaguely see a white figure sitting in the last row of seats in the venue. Unlike the spotlight on the dummy on the stage, this new white figure appeared blurry in the dark lighting of the venue. If it weren't for the fact that Phantom Thief's white clothes stood out in the darker surroundings, no one would have noticed that there was someone hidden there. You two, go and check it out. It might be another dummy. Don't shoot unless he makes any suspicious moves. Jim picked two officers from the group behind him and instructed them. As the two officers left, there was another shout from behind. Behind us! Phantom Thief is behind us! This time, it was a police officer who shouted. Everyone turned around and saw a white figure closely resembling Phantom Thief about 20 meters behind them. This new white figure was different from the last two dummies it was moving. The new white figure was running at a rapid speed, faster than an average person running. The moving figure shouldn't be a dummy anymore. The joke of tonight is finally coming to an end. Jim thought to himself. Just as he was about to give the order to capture Phantom Thief, a series of shouts erupted from the crowd. Look! It's Phantom Thief on the right. That one looks fake, it's not even moving. The one at 9 o'clock is the real Phantom Thief. What a joke! Nobody walks in that awkward way. The one near the ballroom is definitely Phantom Thief. One by one, more and more Phantom Thief were discovered in the venue, creating the illusion that they were surrounded by the real Phantom Thief. Reporting, sir. This is Patrol Team A. We have a serious situation to report. At that moment, Jim's walkie-talkie suddenly rang. Thinking of the current situation, Jim's heart skipped a beat. We have spotted a figure resembling Phantom Thief on the 18th floor corridor. The target is moving very fast, and we are about to lose sight of him. Please send backup to block him. As soon as this report came in, another piece of information came in. Reporting, sir. This is Patrol Team C. We've found something at the 4th floor staircase. Chapter 27, Chapter 27, Secrecy. We're all stories in the end, we just have to make it a good one. The Doctor Who. Listening to the support requests coming from different patrol teams, Jim's face turned dark. The total number of Phantom Thieves discovered had exceeded 20, scattered throughout the entire 18th floor in different corners. Which ones were dummies, which one was the real Phantom Thief, or if any of them are real, is still unknown. How did Phantom Thief manage to release so many dummies in so many places? Could it be that in the less than 30 minutes I was checking the surveillance footage, Phantom Thief not only tampered with the power supply but also spread many dummies? How is that possible? How could so many dummies have remained hidden until now without anyone noticing? On stage, Robin's expression was also gloomy. Phantom Thief was always one step ahead of them, so they always fell into his traps. Ever since becoming Robin, he has faced many criminals in Gotham, including the Riddler, Two-Face, Penguin, and even the Joker, but a situation like this is rare. Although Robin and the others had been playing right into Phantom Thief's hands, they had not guessed everything wrong. For example, they once thought that Phantom Thief was disguised among the bidders. At this moment, Dean was indeed disguised as someone, calmly hidden among the crowd. In fact, his situation was quite tough. The police had set up a perimeter around the auction bidders, which they were all still inside. If Jim suddenly realized that Phantom Thief must be hiding among the crowd and that everyone outside was a dummy, Then he would order to tighten the perimeter and then start verifying the identity of each person, and the situation would turn against Dean in an instant. But this would mean giving up on chasing the phantom thief outside, whose identities were unknown, whether they were real or dummies. Because GCPD's police resources were limited, they couldn't guarantee that no one would escape from the perimeter and, at the same time, give the police the opportunity to catch the dummy. The problem was, who could be sure of Phantom Thief's real body? Who would dare gamble on that? Robin said he would. Ignore those running dummies, they're all smoke bombs set up by Phantom Thief. Robin came to Jim and said it with a serious face. No matter what puzzling things he has done, don't forget his ultimate goal, pink fantasy. When hearing this, Jim immediately understood and quickly ordered someone to bring the auction host, manager Joey Cicero. Joey was in the middle of the crowd and was quickly brought in front of Jim. What's going on? Why are these cops bothering me instead of going after Phantom Thief? Could it be, they found out about the fake pink diamond? Thinking of this, Joey felt uneasy as he avoided Jim's sharp gaze. Jim grew suspicious at Joey's unusual behavior and grabbed his face, and pulled it hard. Ah! Commissioner, what are you doing? Joey's face was hurting from being pulled, causing him to cry out. After pulling and tugging Joey's face, Jim confirmed that Joey wasn't wearing a disguise mask or anything. After releasing his grip, Jim saw Joey's face, which had swollen up and turned red. Sorry, Mr. Joey, it's a necessary precaution. I have an important question for you, and I hope you answer truthfully. Joey's real face did not ignore Jim's suspicions, and he kept a sharp eye on him. So, they really found out about it. If the GCPD knows, Penguin will surely come after me and my family. Joey went pale, and his legs trembled at the thought of the angry look from Penguin. This behavior made Jim's suspicion of him even stronger. On the side, Robin observed the questioning process without interrupting, carefully studying Joey's expression. It's not an act, he really feels scared deep inside. Phantom Thief wouldn't have such low psychological strength, so what is he afraid of? Robin fell into deep thought. Is it about the rumor of the diamond being fake? Is pink fantasy the scam that Phantom Thief wants to expose today? Robin shook his head in his mind and said, it's not that simple. Even if the diamond is fake, it wasn't actually sold. The chance of being held accountable for this level of crime in Gotham is slim. It doesn't explain Joey's fear. Where did you hide pink fantasy, Mr. Joey? On the other side, Jim asked Joey with a cold expression. You've seen the situation now, it's intense. Please hand over the diamond to the police for safekeeping. What? This? Joey realized that this was bad. Jim asking for the diamond meant that the fake diamond operation was exposed. He just wasn't sure if GCPD knew the secret behind the fake diamond. Well, Commissioner, pink fantasy hasn't been auctioned yet. It's the private property of Mr. William Ethan. I need to ask him first before making any decisions. Joey tried to buy some time by forcing a smile. Jim stared at him blankly. At the same time, Dean watched the scene from the crowd and kept a close eye on Jim and Joey. Tisk, Jim, and Robin actually went to interrogate Joey. They must be trying to get the pink fantasy earlier. I didn't expect my dummy plan to fail. Dean rubbed his chin, thinking to himself, it seems I need to use a slightly more aggressive plan. Dean put his hands down and shook his palms up slightly, and a few ping-pong-sized objects fell into his palms from his sleeves. With these small balls in his hands, Dean skillfully played them into the crowd, slowly approaching the police perimeter. He avoided the first few rows, as it would be too noticeable. Swish! 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 When no one was paying attention, Dean flicked his fingers and bounced all the small balls in his hand. Bang! 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 After several loud noises, thick smoke quickly arose, engulfing everyone nearby and spreading outward. It's a smoke bomb! Phantom thief is in the crowd. Beware of people around you, they might all be phantom thief. As Dean shouted, he took out a palm-sized object and tossed it casually into the crowd. He pressed a switch on the object, and it began to rapidly expand before his eyes. In an instant, it grew to the size of a person. Yes, an inflatable dummy phantom thief was formed. Ah! It's Phantom Thief! I saw him over there. Officer, I saw Phantom Thief too. Hurry, catch him! A bunch of screams and shouts sounded out from the smoke, the voices of men, women, young, and old, all sounding real. Most of these people were famous in Gotham, so the cops couldn't ignore their requests for help. Once the dozen or so police officers maintaining the perimeter heard the voices from within the smoke, they immediately rushed in. This sudden movement not only created a gap in the perimeter but also drove the police beside him to take action. Instead of taking this opportunity to escape, Dean drove the nearby auction participants away, saying in a low voice, "The GCPD officers are all chasing Phantom Thief. We can't stay here and cause trouble. Let's run away first." While saying these words, Dean didn't speak loudly, but just enough for the few people around him to hear. Chapter 28, Chapter 28, Chaos. Love is like the wind, you can't see it but you can feel it. Nicholas Sparks. In the thick smoke, people usually feel panicked and want to escape. Then suddenly, they hear someone saying to run out quickly, and most people instinctively follow. Using Dean as a guide, the surrounding people rushed towards the gap in the police perimeter. "Hey! You can't run out!" The police who entered the smoke tried to stop the crowd and shouted loudly, trying to prevent them from breaking the perimeter. However, even if they managed to stop a few, the rest continued to move forward, and soon someone rushed out of the gap. In an instant, the police perimeter and the people inside were only 3 to 4 meters apart. At the moment when the gap appeared, someone had already run out. As the first person rushed out, the second and third followed closely behind, like a chain reaction. More and more people tried to escape the thick smoke and fled from the gap in the perimeter. When the smoke slowly spread deeper into the crowd, many people even tried to break through without a gap. The once stable situation was instantly broken. Faced with these panicked and reckless rich kids, the police couldn't hit or scold them, they could only try their best to persuade them not to panic. The result was obvious, it was useless. On the other side, Jim and the others who were questioning Joey about the location of Pink Fantasy were briefly stunned by the sudden turn of events. "It's Phantom Thief! He had been hiding in the crowd the whole time." Robin immediately realized. "Commissioner, instruct your people to restore the perimeter. I'll stay here with Joey," Robin said, taking charge. Jim nodded heavily and immediately rushed up to maintain order. "I guess the pink diamond is hidden in yourself, right? It's not lost yet, is it?" Robin turned her head to look into Joey's eyes and asked in a positive tone. How do you know?" Joey, who had been planning to hide the truth from Jim, suddenly looked shocked, unable to believe what he was hearing. "That's not the point. As long as the diamond is still on you, it's fine." Robin glanced at the chaotic situation behind him and said to Joey, "Phantom Thief will definitely come looking for you. We need to move to a safe place and." At this point, Robin paused, and his gaze suddenly became sharp as he stared directly into Joey's eyes. "I'm very interested in the real secret of this Pink Fantasy. What kind of deception does Phantom Thief want to expose tonight?" Upon hearing this, Joey's pupils instantly shrank. Robin's words showed that he knew that the fake Pink Fantasy was just one part of the Penguin's true plan, not the main secret. "Some people are approaching this way. I'm not sure if Phantom Thief is among them. Let's move." Robin grabbed Joey and held a grappling gun in his hand, shooting it towards the main entrance of the venue. Pressing the button on the handle, the grappling gun started retracting the rope, quickly pulling Robin and Joey towards the entrance. "Rib!" But at that very moment, a flying knife suddenly cut the rope shot by the grappling gun. Robin and Joey fell when they felt like they had no weight. Joey landed with a thud, but Robin changed his position in the air and landed safely. Looking in the direction the flying knife came from, a woman with a mask and a dagger in her hand was heading their way with a fierce gaze. Humph! Robin caught Joey, this useless guy. He probably spilled the beans to the cops about the diamond's secret too. I knew it was a bad idea to cooperate with such a coward. Lark sneered at Joey with a disdainful look. Who are you? Robin felt a dangerous aura from the woman, which was entirely different from the impression Phantom Thief gave off. Get out of the way, kid. I want the person next to you. You better not meddle in my business. Lark waved the dagger, showing a clear threat. Usually, you can walk around with Batman's protection, but there's no big bat here to save you today. As soon as she said that, Robin's face changed instantly, and an unknown rage surged from his lower abdomen to his head. I never need Batman's protection. Robin dashed towards Lark, raising his fist and delivering a powerful punch to her abdomen with astonishing speed. Why did so many people see him as Batman's sidekick? They were partners. Equals. Not some game of adults taking care of children. Robin felt a burden of resentment that needed to be released. A little brat looking for death. Lark's eyes filled with murderous intent as she bent backward to dodge Robin's punch. At the same time, her right hand with the dagger made a move, stabbing fiercely at Robin's arm. Despite the anger in his heart, Robin's movements remained stable. He swiftly leaned his body backward, avoiding the dagger, and then delivered a swift sweep kick to Lark's leg. The entire set of moves went smoothly and quickly, leaving no time to think. Robin just knew how to do everything. You little shit! With an angry curse, Lark lost her balance and fell to the ground with a thud. Robin went after her right away and knocked the dagger out of her hand while pinning her upper body down. While the two were fighting with each other, Joey suddenly felt a tap on his shoulder, almost scaring him to death. Who is it? He turned around and sighed with relief. It turned out to be William, the CEO of Ethan International Shipping Company. He was on their side. Lark is currently holding Robin down. We need to take this opportunity to run. The diamond is still with you, right? As long as we protect the diamond, our boss shouldn't be too angry. William lifted Joey and ran towards the door. Thank you. Yes, the diamond is still in my pocket. It's safe. Joey expressed his gratitude, feeling the joy of surviving the chaos. However, he ignored something very important. With William's giant body and carrying another person, they seemed to be running too fast. On the other side, Robin, who had just subdued Lark, noticed that a chubby, unexpectedly quick guy was taking Joey away. That's Phantom Thief. Robin realized William's identity and immediately wanted to chase them. However, he found his leg being pulled. Do you think I'll let you escape? You brat! Lark held onto Robin's left leg tightly, yelling. I don't have time to deal with you. Robin coldly said this and quickly delivered an elbow strike to Lark's face, knocking her unconscious. Chapter 29, Pink Fantasy. To truly understand someone, you must listen not only to their words but also to their silence. Thor's Vinland Saga. In the corridor outside the auction hall on the 18th floor of the Gotham International Hotel, William was carrying Joey on his back and was running wildly. Today's auction has been completely ruined. Mr. Penguin's deal is almost impossible to proceed as planned. How angry will he be? Can I still survive? Joey weakly asked William on his back. To be honest, I don't know. The boss's temper is always unpredictable. Maybe he doesn't even care about such a small matter like this, William reassured. I hope so, Joey sighed. You've never worked with our Penguin gang before, and Gotham International Hotel has a good reputation. The people here are all high-ranking officials and celebrities from Gotham. You don't need to mix with us. So why did you suddenly agree to let our fake diamonds be auctioned? William asked curiously. Forgive me for being rude, but I am really curious why you're helping the boss. Did he threaten your wife or son? Did he hold a gun to your head? Speaking of which, William suddenly realized that his question might not be right and apologized. Sorry, I've tried to bribe you with money before, but you never agreed. So I always thought you were a fraud who pretended to be good. The reason why I asked you this question was not out of curiosity but because I needed to know how close your relationship with the gang is to analyze the boss's attitude towards you. It's Ignatius Ogilvy, Mr. Penguin sent him to deal with me. I don't want to think about that memory, it was terrifying. Joey's worries about the future made his mind chaotic, and he couldn't even hear the loopholes in William's words. Ignatius Ogilvy. William said it with a look of sudden realization. So it's him. No wonder you're so scared, William said. At this moment, a series of hurried footsteps approached from behind, accompanied by a loud shout. Put that person down, phantom thief. Robin caught up, and he was prepared. He had a semi-transparent gas mask on his face, which could effectively protect him from different known toxic gases on Earth. This is the one he wore in the temporary storage room of the auction items before. He replaced his ordinary eye mask with special sunglasses that could greatly reduce the impact of bright lights and even had infrared sensing capabilities. With all these protective gears, flashlights, smoke bombs, tear gas, and other techniques would not affect Robin. Phantom. Phantom thief. Upon hearing Robin's call, Joey's face froze, and he looked at William with shock. A chill ran down his spine, causing him to shudder and feel numb and cold. Did he just reveal the secret deal between him and the Penguin? Oh well, I've been exposed. Dean said, shaking his head helplessly and apologizing with a sheepish smile. Robin, since you want this guy who is so scared to death, I'll just have to give him back to you, Dean said. With that, the person who was disguised as William suddenly stopped. He grabbed Joey's wrists on his back and then turned a 180 degree to throw him backward. When Joey let go, Dean reached out his right hand and grabbed his collar, pulling it down hard. With his clothes, pants, and disguise removed, Phantom Thief revealed his true identity. Phantom Thief. The appearance is really good, but unfortunately it is a fake. At some point, a small piece of pink diamond appeared in the hands of Phantom Thief. The diamond was cut into a beautiful olive shape. With a gentle flick of his hand, the diamond disappeared, leaving everyone wondering where Phantom Thief had hidden it. Meanwhile, Joey was rushing towards Robin. Robin's gaze was firm, and he slightly moved aside, letting Joey fall to the ground while he continued chasing Phantom Thief without slowing down. Tisk tisk, Robin, you didn't even catch that guy. Aren't you afraid he might get hurt from the fall? Phantom Thief complained as he saw Robin ignore Joey and charge straight at him. Humph! You used about 60% of your strength to throw that person away. Even if Joey fell to the ground, he would scratch his skin at most. Compared to that, of course chasing you is more important. Robin, trained by Batman for many years in different martial arts techniques, had a deep understanding of different fighting styles. In other words, he had mastered the basic principles of human force. Robin could easily see how much the amount of force Phantom Thief had used and what effect it would have. Hearing Robin's words, Phantom Thief couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. Did his eyes deceive him? Did Batman really teach this kind of technique? Also, Robin was still young. How skilled would he become after practicing for 10 or 8 years? It seemed impossible to know someone's next move just by watching their body movements, right? At this moment, a voice that was extremely familiar to Robin sounded from behind him, and the voice was full of anxiety. Robin! Something bad is happening. Forget about Phantom Thief, come back quickly. Alfred! Upon hearing Alfred's anxious call, Robin immediately stopped and turned around to see if something had happened to him. However, when he looked back down the corridor behind him, besides Joey lying on the ground, there was no sign of Alfred. "Oh! My dear Robin, please take a few more steps forward. I'm right in front of you." Robin didn't foolishly move forward but turned back, his expression darkening as he faced Phantom Thief. He knew that this must be Phantom Thief using some kind of device or speaker on Joey. Suddenly, Phantom Thief turned his head and grinned at him as he ran forward, showing him an object that looked like an earpiece in his hand. Phantom Thief put the earpiece to his mouth and said, "Robin, my dearest wonder boy, what do you want to eat when you go home? I can cook the best food for you." It was Phantom Thief who spoke, but Robin heard the voice coming from Joey. The tone and voice sounded exactly like Alfred's. Robin was amazed at Phantom Thief's ability to copy human voices without any props or gadgets. Despite the surprise, Robin did not give up chasing Phantom Thief. He ran faster than before and quickly caught up to him. The corridor in the hotel was not infinitely long, and they soon arrived at a turning point. Now, Phantom Thief was about to reach the corner, while Robin was slightly behind due to his earlier hesitation. As Phantom Thief turned the corner, he disappeared from Robin's line of sight. But when Robin turned the corner... Ah! Chapter 30, Phantom Thief Escape. We accept the love we think we deserve. Mr. Anderson, the perks of being a wallflower. Ah! As Robin turned the corner, he suddenly bumped into something soft. Immediately, a woman's shout echoed through the corridor. Robin looked closely and saw Vicky sitting on the floor, rubbing her head in confusion. Are you Robin?" Seeing Robin in front of her, Vicky's face lit up with joy. She didn't rush to get up but instead pointed behind her. "Phantom Thief just ran past, and I was about to catch up and stop him, but I didn't expect you to be right behind me and accidentally bump into me." Robin followed Vicky's finger and indeed saw Phantom Thief's figure in the corridor, who had already run far away. "When he ran past, he also threw this thing to me. It looks like a recorder, but I'm not sure what it was." Vicky raised her hand to show Robin a small, slim, black box, not much bigger than a regular lighter. Robin glanced at Phantom Thief, then at Vicky. "I'm sorry, Miss Vale." Without hesitation, he reached out and pinched Vicky's face to confirm if she might be the Phantom Thief in disguise. And he still managed to apologize in advance. "Oh! What are you doing?" Caught off guard by Robin grabbing her face, Vicky screamed. It was her real face. Vicky is not Phantom Thief. But, why was Vicky Vale here at this moment? And what did the recorder Phantom Thief give her represent? He was currently being chased, so why did he make this move? And what was on the recorder? Even before the auction began, when Robin, as Dick, met Vicky at the restaurant, it seemed like she had been looking for William. However, William was the Phantom Thief's later disguise. Was there some connection between these two things? Confirming Vicky's identity didn't solve the problem. Instead, it raised more questions in Robin's mind. He just didn't have time to think about all these questions now. "I can't let Phantom Thief get away." Robin temporarily pushed aside his doubts and chased after Phantom Thief. Vicky watched the two figures disappear into the distance, her expression turning serious. She stood up and started her own tasks. However, she didn't follow Phantom Thief and Robin but instead turned the corner and headed down the hallway where they came from. Phantom Thief was walking down the corridor that led to the entrance of the auction house. Thump, thump, thump. Hearing the footsteps behind him, Phantom Thief turned to glance and sighed, "Here you come again. Why are you so persistent, like a clingy dog? Are you a dog? If you really want an answer, then yes." Robin said it firmly. "Is that so?" Phantom Thief looked ahead and noticed that the stairs were just 15 meters away on his right. He quickly made up his mind. It seems like you're not going to let go of me unless we settle this here. He stopped and turned to face Robin, his voice cold. He suddenly held a uniquely designed silver-white pistol in his hand, something Robin had never seen him use before. He wants to kill me. Have I been wrong about Phantom Thief all this time? Robin focused and observed Phantom Thief's movements. Unlike Batman's armor, Robin's suit also used good bullet-resistant materials, but for the sake of agility, it didn't have the same heavy Kevlar titanium alloy armor as the Batsuit. It had more lightweight parts, such as arm guards and knee pads, which made its overall bullet-resistant effectiveness less than perfect. If Robin wore something similar to the Batsuit, he wouldn't be able to maintain the same agility due to his physical differences from Batman. Bang! A gunshot rang out, and Phantom Thief had actually fired at Robin. However, it wasn't a bullet that came out of the gun, but a playing card. The speed of the playing card was slower than a bullet. Robin, who had been prepared for a long time, as if following some kind of natural instinct. Robin didn't quite understand what kind of gun it was, but his body subconsciously moved aside, letting the playing card fly past him. A playing card gun. Robin realized this as he dodged the card, finding the situation rather funny. Phantom Thief's weapons looked strange, and they were even weirder to use. Who would come up with a gun that shoots playing cards as bullets? Rumble, rumble, rumble. At this moment, a kin object suddenly rolled in front of Robin and then released a hissing sound, and a grey mist quickly spread, enveloping Robin inside. The mist wasn't thick, so Robin's vision wasn't greatly affected. Did Phantom Thief forget that I'm wearing a gas mask? Robin raised an eyebrow, not paying much attention to the grey mist, and continued to move towards Phantom Thief on the opposite side. Then, he saw Phantom Thief reveal a mysterious smile. Swoosh! The hand that was not holding the gun of Phantom suddenly moved, and the playing card that flew past Robin actually flew back, piercing through the gap between the gas mask and Robin's cheek while also cutting a part of the mask's strap. What the? In that instant, Robin noticed that the playing card was wrapped with an incredibly good invisible thread. Without giving Robin a chance to react, Phantom Thief pulled the thread backward. With a click, Robin's gas mask was pulled off, and the grey mist was slightly inhaled by Robin. Cough, cough. This is tear gas. Robin immediately held his breath and crouched down, using one hand to cover his mouth and nose while the other hand tried to pick up the fallen gas mask. Snap! Another playing card shot out and knocked the gas mask even farther away. Rumble, rumble, rumble. At the same time, 3 tear gas cans rolled in, filling the corridor with grey mist. Goodbye, Wonder Boy. If you hurry back to the auction venue now, you might catch another exciting show. Phantom Thief smiled faintly and saw that he stretched his hand and threw his cape upward to cover his whole body. As the white cape fell to the ground due to gravity, Phantom Thief's figure had already disappeared. Chapter 31, Chapter 31, The Truth. The only thing fair about life is how unfair it is to everyone. Megami Fushiguro. Cough, cough, cough. Robin covered his face with his cloak and stepped out of the tear gas fog. After about 10 seconds, the effects of the tear gas began to fade, and Robin lowered the cloak that was covering his face. The tear gas seemed to have less of an effect than it should have. Robin didn't feel much of an effect after leaving the gas, unlike the tear gas grenades used by the GCPD, which continued to have an effect for about 10 minutes even after leaving the gas area. Robin looked at the smoke in front of him and knew that it would still be there for a few more minutes before it completely dissipated. He understood that chasing after the Phantom Thief at this point, there was little hope. There is still a good show at the auction. Recalling what the Phantom Thief had said earlier, Robin narrowed his eyes and returned to the auction venue. Before leaving, he didn't forget to bring the hotel manager, Joey, who was still lying on the floor in the hallway. Soon, inside the auction venue. As soon as Robin walked in through the main door, he felt that something was off. Thanks to Commissioner Gordon and the efforts of the GCPD, the chaotic situation had been under control, and order had been restored. Strangely, everyone was back in their auction seats at this time. The GCPD police officers surrounded the area, and all looked towards the stage, just like they did during the auction. However, the person standing on the podium was unexpectedly a woman. With flowing blonde waves of hair, sharp and elegant professional clothes, and a mature and intelligent face. It was Vicky Vale, the iconic reporter for the Gotham Gazette. Next to Vicky is Lark, and William stands handcuffed without saying a word. A few police officers stood behind each of them, and Commissioner Gordon was among them. So, this is the good show that the Phantom Thief was talking about. Robin snorted in his mind. He had a vague idea of what tricks the Phantom Thief was playing. He dragged Joey into the venue and tossed him over to Lark and William. "You're back, Robin. How is the situation?" Commissioner Gordon hurriedly asked when he saw Robin return. "Sorry, Phantom Thief got away again." Robin shook his head slightly. "Forget about that thief for now. There's something more important we need to reveal to the public." "Thank you for bringing Joey. We were just discussing about him." Vicky interrupted Jim and Robin's conversation, speaking with a serious expression. "If you had come 20 seconds late, I might have had to borrow 2 people from Commissioner Gordon to bring Mr. Joey here," she added. "So, what's the situation now?" Robin looked at Gordon and asked. Ms. Vale said she had some inside information about the pink fantasy diamond, which she declared was behind a huge sum of money being traded illegally. Jim replied, "She said that everyone here has the right to know the truth, so she chose to announce it here publicly. She had just mentioned Joey collapsing in the hallway and wanting me to send someone to bring him here, and then you showed up." When hearing this, Robin nodded knowingly, silently thinking to himself. "I see, in the last line of Phantom Thief's notice letter, Hermes doesn't say to Phantom Thief himself, but to Vicky Vale, a reporter dedicated to exposing the truth. Hermes is the messenger of the gods, and the meaning of the existence of the profession of a reporter is to be a messenger of the truth to the world, right? Although real reporters who remain faithful to their principles are rare nowadays, this does not change the purpose of being a reporter. At least Vicky could be considered a dedicated reporter." She stepped to the center of the stage, took the microphone, and addressed the audience. "Hello, everyone attending today's auction. I'm Vicky Vale from the Gotham Gazette. Some of you may have heard of me, and some of you may not. In fact, Vicky Vale is quite famous in Gotham, and almost everyone in the audience knows her. I know you have doubts, and maybe even hatred towards Phantom Thief who disrupted this auction. But I'm here to tell you that this auction is hiding an illegal transaction. And the item for this transaction is the focus of this auction, the pink fantasy diamond, which is a fake." As she spoke, people started talking about what she said. Many of them had come to see the largest pink diamond in the world. As for some gossip about fake diamonds, they basically couldn't hear it at their level of status. Even if they heard about the fake diamond, no one would believe it without solid proof. But, the one who announced this was Vicky Vale, the leading reporter of Gotham Gazette. Her words held a lot of influence. Vicky pointed to Joey Cicero and continued, "Joey Cicero, as the host of this auction, not only allowed the fake diamond to be auctioned but also prepared a set of appraisal certificates for the pink fantasy by bribing, threatening, and blackmailing the appraisers. I know that accusations without evidence are pointless, so I want you to take a look at this." Vicky took out a visible sealed bag from her purse and displayed it on the large screen for everyone to see. The bag was filled with different stones, diamonds, crystals, sapphires, emeralds, which are gorgeous and colorful, and each one is in excellent condition. If someone carves it carefully, it is worth a fortune. It is a waste of money to stuff it into a plastic bag like this. However, Vicky's next sentence instantly shocked everyone present. "These were all found in Joey's manager's office, hidden in a secret compartment, and every treasure in this bag is fake." These words are quite shocking, but after thinking about it, there still seem to be some loopholes. Joey hides so many fake treasures, does he plan to auction them in large amounts? Isn't he afraid of exposing his secrets someday? And isn't Pink Fantasy auctioned by William? Why are there a lot of fake gems hidden in Cicero? The more important question was, why would Phantom Thief steal a fake diamond? Robin, what do you think is Phantom Thief's motive? Jim turned to Robin and asked for his opinion but quickly stopped. I knew it. Looking around the empty space next to him, Jim couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. Vicky looked at everyone with a determined gaze. She didn't know if there would be consequences after revealing all this, but if she didn't speak up, she would waste all her years of hard work. The purpose of these fake gems wasn't to make money through auctions from the start. It was for money laundering. Joey, William, and Lark were all just pawns used to launder money by using the Pink Fantasy. The man behind everything was Oswald Cobblepot. The Penguin. Chapter 32, Chapter 32, Recorder. Fake friends are like shadows. They follow you in the sun, but leave you in the dark. Hachiman Hikigaya, Aregeru. About 2 days ago, someone sent me a tip that Ethan International Shipping Company had recently gotten a large amount of money from an unknown source. The amount was more than $50 million, but there were no relevant records found in the public accounts. After exposing the true identity of the real man behind the scenes, Vicky began to spread the word about the whole situation. The person who sent the informant claimed that the $50 million was black money, and the real source was the head of a Gotham crime organization. For unknown reasons, the organization wanted to launder the money as soon as possible. Everyone in Gotham knows there's only one place to go to launder dirty money here, and that's the Iceberg Lounge. As we all know, Penguin never refuses any business that comes to him, so he planned to launder the black money at this auction by auctioning a low-cost fake diamond at a high price, and he decided to use the Ethan International Shipping Company to accomplish this task. Because this company, which appears to have clear accounts on the surface, is actually nothing more than a tool under the company of Penguin. At this time, Vicky then turned to the handcuffed William Ethan. The CEO of Ethan International Shipping Company, William Ethan, is just a puppet under Penguin, and he specializes in criminal activities like money laundering for him. Pink Fantasy was apparently brought by William to be auctioned, but in fact, he is only an agent in charge of auctioning diamonds, not the owner of Pink Fantasy. Once Pink Fantasy is auctioned at a sky-high price of close to $50 million, Penguin's client will receive the laundered money. Next, Vicky shifted her gaze to Lark. In order to ensure that Pink Fantasy can get the ideal bid, Penguin also asked one of his henchmen, the manager of the Iceberg Casino, Lark, to participate in the auction as a bidder. In this way, everyone's unit of work is very clear. The client wanted Penguin's help to launder money, so they sent $50 million of illegal assets to Penguin's puppet, William. Then William would then auction the fake diamond on behalf of the client, while Lark would ensure the fake diamond was successfully bid at a high price. In this way, the original $50 million in illegal assets of the client will become legal profits from the auction. Joey's role in it was to ensure that the fake diamond was successfully brought to the auction. If any unlucky rich man just fell in love with this Pink Fantasy and planned to bid higher than Lark, then Lark would naturally not bid with him and let the lucky one bid for the diamond, and Penguin got $50 million for nothing. As for how the $50 million sent to Ethan International Shipping Company would be laundered, this is too simple for Penguin's power. He had countless ways to make the money appear legitimate. In the whole process, Penguin did not appear in any links, but at the same time, he was connected everywhere. It turned out the pink diamond was actually used as a tool for money laundering. Seeing all those fake gemstones in Joey's office, it's no wonder how massive this illegal operation truly is. After listening to Vicky's story, every bidder present suddenly realized and couldn't help but gasp, feeling shocked. That pink diamond is so good that I really thought about buying it before. If I really spend more than $50 million to buy a fake diamond, I dare not think about it, I dare not even think about it. Humph. At this moment, a cold snort sounded from the side. William had a resentful expression as he glared fiercely at Vicky. Vicky Vale. Your words sound reasonable, but do you have any evidence? I swear to God that Ethan International Shipping Company never received any illegal payments. Our company's accounts have always been open and visible to everyone, and investigations are always welcome. How dare you accuse me of being Penguin's money laundering puppet? I have no connection with him whatsoever. Your words are hurtful and insulting to my name. And what gives you the right to say that Pink Fantasy is fake just because a hotel manager collected a bag of pretty glass stones? The current situation is that Phantom Thief stole Pink Fantasy, and I lost the world's largest pink diamond. Obviously, I'm the victim here. Why am I the one being handcuffed and charged by the police? GCPD, is taxpayers' money given to just the wrong innocent people? Vicky Vale and Jim Gordon, get ready to receive my lawyer's letter. William was clearly trained and experienced, and insisted that Vicky was accusing him and that it was impossible to convict him without solid evidence. Such a tough attitude caused everyone in the audience to murmur again. What William said was correct, and Vicky did not come up with actual and convincing evidence. Ethan International Shipping Company has never had any bad news. Why did it suddenly become connected to the Penguin? Maybe William was really being falsely accused. You've got some brains, you fat slob. You really stopped that bitch from talking. Lark whispered to William with a sneer on his face. Shut up for now. William replied in a low voice. Do you think I have no evidence? William, look what this is. However, Vicky was not backing down. She put down the bag of fake gemstones and pulled out a black object from her pocket, and held it up high. It was a long and thin box, which was the tape recorder thrown to her by Phantom Thief earlier. What? William couldn't see the big screen, and he was too far from Vicky to see clearly what it was. But it didn't matter if he couldn't see because he could hear clearly. Today's auction has been completely ruined, and Penguin's deal is almost impossible to proceed smoothly. It's Ignatius. Penguin sent him to negotiate this business with me. A recording was played, and it was Joey who confessed that he had a deal with Penguin and was forced. How dare you betray us? William and Lark turned their heads in an instant and looked at Joey at the same time, with fierce eyes and angry faces, especially Lark, who looked like he wanted to kill Joey. Joey, who seemed to have lost his soul for a long time, hadn't said a word since he was dragged in by Robin. His face was expressionless, his eyes were empty, and he was unaware of the glare of William and Lark. At that moment, another recording played, this time of a woman's voice. It's been a long time before that fake stone comes out. Don't forget, I've been working under the boss for much longer than you. As long as I don't want to, no one can hear my voice. Lark's face froze when he heard the voice. William looked at Joey, then at Lark, and fell into silence. Chapter 33, Chapter 33, Scheme. I don't care if no one like me, I wasn't created in this world to entertain everyone. Hutara Oraki, Hyuka. I know there may be doubts about the reliability of the recording, so I kindly request the Wayne Group to help verify it. I believe that with the Wayne Group's technology, they can determine if this recording is a real voice. Is that all right, Commissioner Gordon? With Gordon's approval, Vicky walked down to the front row and handed the recorder to Alfred Pennyworth, who was seated in the middle. And Dick Grayson. The moment she saw Dick, Vicky froze for a moment. She remembered that Dick wasn't here before, so she asked Alfred about this. Alfred calmly told her that Master Richard had gone to the bathroom. Maybe because he was used to the food in Wayne Manor, he accidentally ate here and was not used to his stomach. Now that Dick had returned from the bathroom, there seemed to be nothing wrong, but Vicky didn't seem to have seen Dick walk in. Since she thought he was still in the bathroom, she didn't realize he had already returned to his seat. Then I will accept it on behalf of the Wayne Group, Miss Vale. I believe if Master Bruce were here, he would gladly take on this task. Dick took the tape recorder and assured Vicky that the Wayne group would finish it as soon as possible. At this point, tonight's incident came to an end. The identity of the person who entrusted Penguin to launder 50 million in illegal money is still unknown. However, the police will soon start a full investigation into Ethan International Shipping Company, which will allow them to trace the transactions through hidden account records. It is a pity that there isn't any direct evidence that leads to Penguin. While the recording mentions Penguin, but it is not a real name, making it nearly impossible to trace it back to him. That's the frightening thing about the Penguin. Everyone in Gotham knows he is Gotham's criminal underworld kingpin, and many crimes can be traced back to him. However, no matter how much they investigate, they can only find leads for his subordinates and never find any criminal evidence against Penguin himself. Even Batman rarely catches the Penguin off guard. He usually just gives him a good beating, but he can't send him to prison. However, all of that was the work of the GCPD and the court. Vicky has already done her part, and the rest is no longer her concern. Even if she wanted to interfere, she couldn't. Meanwhile, on the rooftop of the hotel, a white figure with a trace of grey crawled out of the ventilation shaft at the edge of the rooftop. It was Dean, suited up as the Phantom Thief. After stopping Robin with tear gas, Dean ran up to the 20th floor and used the elevator card he took from Joey to activate the exclusive elevator to the 25th floor's presidential suite. From there, he escaped through the ventilation duct. It was the same ventilation duct where he overheard Ignatius's secret conversation with Joey. In order to ensure the safety and privacy of this presidential suite, the entire power system including the exclusive elevator was shut down, and no surveillance equipment was installed. It was the perfect escape route for Dean. Brushing off himself, Dean took out the grappling gun and shot the rope. One end was set on the roof, and the other end hung down to the ground where no one was around, and then he slid down with the rope. Since Dean had left his cloak in the hotel during his magic performance for Robin, and he didn't bring any extra cloak with him, he couldn't use the glide to fly and used to land the old-fashioned way. As Dean slid down the rope, a few hundred meters away on a high building opposite Gotham International Grand Hotel. There are 3 people hiding here, 2 of them are snipers who have set up their guns, and the last one is Ignatius Ogilvy, the most trusted subordinate of Penguin's henchmen. "Aren't you going to take the shot, Ignatius?" Phantom Thief is about to enter the blind spot. One of the snipers impatiently asked while watching through the scope as Phantom Thief kept dropping. "Don't rush. I already talked with the boss in advance. Phantom Thief will fall into our hands, but we need to wait a bit longer. It's not the right time to kill him yet." Beside them, Ignatius gently lit up a cigarette and replied calmly to his companion as if he didn't care about Phantom Thief. "What did the boss say exactly? What if Phantom Thief escapes? Who will take the blame? I don't want to be the boss's scapegoat." The sniper expressed dissatisfaction with Ignatius's calm attitude, turning his head to glare at him. Ignatius's eyes glinted, and he approached the sniper with a smile. "If you're so prepared to take down Phantom Thief, then go ahead and shoot. But you must ensure a killing shot. If you're not confident about that, don't do it, understand?" "No problem." The sniper had confidence in his marksmanship. He adjusted his sniper rifle and looked through the scope to aim at Phantom Thief above. At this very moment, a sharp pain suddenly struck his throat. Splurt! A large amount of blood gushed out instantly. The sniper covered his bleeding throat and looked at Ignatius in disbelief. You. Ignatius looked down at him with a mocking gaze, slowly raising his right hand wearing a black glove, holding a blood-stained playing card. "I told you to wait first. It was my first time killing someone with a playing card, and I wasn't fully prepared yet. Luckily, it works on the first try. Otherwise, I would have been quite angry." Ugh. The sniper's eyes grew big with anger. He desperately reached out his hand, trying to grab Ignatius, but was easily kicked down by him. Ignatius cut his carotid artery with a playing card, and the blood gushed out unstoppably. The sniper soon gasped his last breath and died with his eyes wide open. "What now, boss? Should we stay here for a while or go back directly?" Ignatius suddenly killed the sniper, and the other sniper next to him did not only not panic but also calmly put away the sniper rifle and asked Ignatius. It seemed he wasn't concerned about his companion getting killed by his own people or worried that Ignatius would attack him. It can be seen from calling Ignatius boss. This is a loyal subordinate trained by Ignatius himself. "Why stay here? To enjoy the cold wind?" Ignatius sneered and also put away the dead sniper's rifle. After putting away the guns, the two of them moved out a huge box from the corner and put all the corpses, sniper rifles, and blood-stained playing cards inside. Then, they changed into moving company uniforms and carried the box away. "Boss, you killed this idiot. How do we explain this to the Penguin?" Ignatius' subordinate asked. Hearing that, Ignatius raised an eyebrow and replied sternly, "What did you say?" "I didn't kill anyone. He was killed by Phantom Thief." "Phantom Thief? That's why you used the playing card. I understand now, boss. It was Phantom Thief who killed our companion." Chapter 34, Chapter 34, Mini Surveillance System Jammer. It's just pathetic to give up on something before you even give it a shot. Reiko Mikami. As Phantom Thief landed on the ground, he glanced towards a large building in the distance, deep in thought. While he was on the rooftop, he noticed someone hiding in that building. He had thought they might be a threat, maybe even a sniper. So, while he appeared to be carelessly sliding down the rope, and was defenseless on the surface. In fact, he was careful in every movement so that the wall always blocked him and his vitals. However, when he landed safely and was completely in the blind spot of the sniper, the expected attack never came. Could it be that I was just overthinking it? Maybe the person over there was just coming to the rooftop to enjoy the view. Dean stroked his chin and thought. Forget it, being a phantom thief is unavoidable to be hated by others. Choosing this profession means dealing with these kinds of troubles, he sighed. Even though most people should currently be focused on Vicky Vale exposing a scam, there was still a chance that the GCPD would continue their search for the phantom thief in the area. Dean decided it was not safe to stay there any longer and quickly changed his appearance and escaped. After going through different alleys and several disguises and even playing as a street hero to stop a few small-time criminals in alleys, Dean finally managed to return to his own home. As soon as he got back to his room, he eagerly summoned the system. He wanted to see how successful his latest mission had been. Congratulations to the host for completing the custom mission Stealing Pink Fantasy, Fake. Mission difficulty, Easy. Treasure value, Average. The item itself has no value but can be exchanged for $50 million. Elegance level, C+. Overall evaluation, C, making progress, starting to show some potential. Rewards, 735 amazement points, from Gotham Upper Class, GCPD officers, Jim Gordon, Robin, plus 600 amazement points, task completion bonus. Based on his last experience, the mission report would usually end here, but this time the system's notification sound continued. Completed hidden objective, providing important evidence to expose the money laundering behind Pink Fantasy. Additional reward, 300 amazement points. Balance, 112 amazement points. Total points, 1,747. Dean's eyes lit up. He hadn't expected there to be a hidden objective, so this was a pleasant surprise. When he first planned the operation, Dean was not aware of the money laundering scheme behind Pink Fantasy. At first, Dean thought the scam was only about fake diamonds. In the week before the operation, Dean didn't think about investigating the real purpose of Penguin's fake diamonds. After all, Penguin's wealth and reputation had already surpassed the level of making money through auctioning fake items. But Dean is a thief, not a detective, let alone revealed a secret and reliable source of information, so his eyes are only on the fake diamond itself. But luck turned in his favor a few hours ago when Dean sent Dick a challenge to fool him in the restaurant hours earlier. When Vicky happened to be there and claimed she was there for information about William. She had been looking into it because of a tip she received a few days ago about illegal assets being transferred. She wanted to see if she could get some information from him. And Dean happens to be disguised as William at that time, who is the seller of Pink Fantasy, which is a perfect disguise. Then Dean met Vicky and found out from their conversation that $50 million worth of illegal assets were transferred to William's company at the same time that Pink Dreams was being sold at auction. Dean is not an idiot, so he wouldn't believe it if nothing was wrong with it. The idea that Pink Fantasy was a way to launder money becomes more and more possible as Dean thinks Penguin wouldn't do low-end businesses like auctioning fake diamonds that could hurt his reputation. He later meets a member of the Penguin gang named Lark as William and gets more information from her. Dean didn't expect that behind the fake diamond scam there was a business connection to black money laundering, which was somehow connected to the notice letter he made. Sometimes, things are just so coincidental. Hermes, the messenger, could either be the thief who exposed the fake diamonds or the messenger who exposed the money laundering activities. Both ways of looking at it were correct. After all, who told a god to have so many symbolic meanings? Moreover, in the current era, fake diamonds are not a rare thing at all. At most, the name of Penguin can add some heat. However, exposing a complete money laundering operation was on a whole different level. If Dean wants to earn more amazement points, Dean has to let Phantom have more buzz. So, Dean adjusted his plan without much thought to earn more points, and he was satisfied with the final result. With over 1700 points, I should have more choices now. Dean opens the system panel. Name, Dean Sutton. Age, 16. Skills, proficiency in magic, proficiency in vehicles, proficiency in lock-picking, proficiency in shooting, proficiency in hand-to-hand combat, quick disguise, voice alteration without props. Items, card gun, grapple gun, triangular glider, bulletproof cloak, high-speed self-filling dummy, homemade smoke bomb, homemade flashbang, homemade tear gas, homemade hypnosis gas. Talent, resistant skin, low level. Before, Dean only had a point of a little over 1000. Dean tried his luck by drawing a random talent card and received resistant skin, which enhanced his resistance to heat, cold, and toxins by 10%. While it doesn't strengthen his skin's hardness or recovery ability, it does provide some defense. Just in case he encounters Firefly, Mr. Freeze, or Scarecrow, it should come in handy. With his experience, Dean focuses on the menu items priced below 2000 points in the exchange shop. He prioritizes looking for skills or items that could save his life, like negating a deadly attack or even a resurrection ability. Of course, the result is that there are no items available at that level at this price. He casually scrolled through the menu to see if he could find something cheap and useful. Suddenly, Dean's eyes lit up. This thing is pretty good. Mini Surveillance System Jammer. This device can disrupt surveillance cameras within a 15-meter radius and can replay the scenes from 1 minute ago. Special note, this jammer is only effective against optical surveillance devices made on Earth and is ineffective against surveillance equipment using higher-level technology. Value, 750 amazement points. Chapter 35, Chapter 35, Bounty. The scariest and the most painful thing is to be hated by someone you truly love. Taru Honda. In exchange for the mini surveillance system jammer, deducted 750 amazement points and left 997 points. As the exchange was completed, a small object appeared out of thin air in front of Dean. It had been frozen in the air by a virtual disk and was waiting for him to pick it up. The jammer was round and about the size of a solid-state hard drive. It was completely black, with the power button located at the top. There are two indicator lights in the middle, which are red and green. The green light indicated that it was functioning normally, while the red light meant that there were surveillance devices that were more advanced than those on Earth within a 15-meter radius. Dean picked up the jammer, and the virtual disk immediately disappeared. Finally, I can take a break. After finishing everything, Dean rubbed his slightly sore shoulders. He did a lot of work today, especially with the tasks of being a phantom thief, and he also spent a lot of time working in the kitchen, disguising himself to be an intern named Tom. While Dean usually cooks for himself, it is completely different from working in a large hotel kitchen. He felt tired, not just physically exhausted but mentally drained as well. Dean realized that the physical work he put into training for high-end magic skills was much greater than doing a few hours of work, but the physical and mental exhaustion was completely opposite. Especially when thinking of going to school again on Monday, Dean felt even more tired. Sometimes, he even thought about dropping out of Gotham Academy and transferring to Phelps Public High School instead. But that was just a thought. Solomon Grundy wouldn't even send his kids there, if he had any. With these boring thoughts, Dean lay down on his bed and slowly fell asleep. On the other side, at the Iceberg Lounge, Ignatius and his subordinate carried the sniper's body into the underground room. This was a place specifically used by Penguin to dispose of bodies, whether they were his own subordinates or enemies he had taken down. In Gotham, the number of actual murder cases was much lower than most people imagined, but there were a suspicious number of cases related to disappearances. For example, there would almost always be gang fights every night, maybe two. The locations could be in the East End or Burnley, but the exact location didn't matter. What mattered was that the gang fights would end at night, and when the GCPD came to investigate tomorrow morning, the ground would be clean. There would be no messy traces of blood or countless bullet casings, and they might not even find a single body. However, the surrounding environment might be a bit messy. So the question remained, did no one get injured in these gang fights? Or did the nearby residents hear only illusions of gunshots? They don't know, and they dare not ask. Unless a brave resident had the guts to call the police in the middle of the gang fight, the GCPD would have a chance of finding some dead bodies. Gotham is known as the crime capital not because there are a lot of deaths but because every inch of this city's land covers evil's crimes that ordinary people couldn't even imagine. If there is a place in the world where people commit every kind of crime, and each crime has a fully developed industrial chain, it must be Gotham. Knock. 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 There was a knock on the office door. As Penguin was reviewing the finances of his different enterprises, he looked up and motioned with his eyes for his two large bodyguards to open the door. He saw Ignatius walking in from the door with his face filled with extreme seriousness as if something big had happened. "Boss, something went wrong at the auction," Ignatius said with a solemn tone, hinting at a sense of shame. "Did Phantom Thief steal the diamond? Or did he figure out it was fake? Or, did you let him escape?" Penguin interrupted, his expression unchanged as he continued looking at the financial accounts. Since the news from the auction hadn't been revealed yet, Penguin, who was at the Iceberg Lounge, wasn't aware of the details. It's just a scandal about a fake diamond. It's enough to let William hold a press conference and say that he didn't know it was fake before getting it. We can spend some money to buy off a few reporters and have them write articles good for us. Penguin replied without looking up. After a while, we will replan the money laundering plan. As for Roman's need for clean money, let him wait a bit longer. There was an accident this time, and the fault is on our side. Then we will take 5% less of his commission. This. Boss, it's not that simple. Ignatius hesitated and stuttered. This time, our operations have been exposed. Phantom Thief and Vicky Vale teamed up to expose the money laundering operations. Now, Lark and William have been arrested by the police. Even the two snipers I brought were defeated by Phantom Thief, and one of them is dead. When hearing this, Penguin raised his head sharply and stared at Ignatius with a piercing gaze and paused every word. What exactly happened? Explain it clearly. Ignatius proceeded to tell the Penguin everything that had happened. I thought having Lark and William at the auction would be enough. I only needed to ambush Phantom Thief outside. But I never expected the situation to turn out like this. Ignatius sighed, and regret filled his face. At the beginning of the auction, I even called Lark to remind her to follow your orders and not act on her own will. But... Phantom Thief. Vicky Vale. Penguin muttered the two names, then suddenly asked, weren't you supposed to be outside the hotel? How do you know what happened inside? Hearing this, Ignatius' heart tightened. Penguin is really not that easy to deceive, but he has already prepared his explanation. Boss, as you know, Lark and William have never gotten along with me. They are old-timers in the gang, while I've only gained your favor in the past 2 years. You let me remotely command the operation today, and I was worried that I couldn't control them or that something unexpected might happen. That's why I planted a bugging device at the auction in advance. Ignatius smiled bitterly. It's not that I don't trust them, it's just for extra to be safe. Penguin stared deeply at Ignatius, who didn't have any obvious flaws in his story. In fact, Lark had complained many times that she didn't like Ignatius, so he was right to be worried. Humph. It seems like everyone has forgotten who owns Gotham City. How dare someone disrupt my business? Penguin angrily picks up his phone and makes a call. I'm offering a reward of $500,000 to anyone who can kill Phantom Thief. $500,000 may not sound like a lot, but for the assassins in Gotham, it's a rare opportunity. This is because lives was cheap in Gotham. To hire a hitman to kill an adult man, it only costs $10,000. For an adult woman, it's $20,000, and for a minor, it's $30,000. These prices are normal among professional assassins, and some even charge less to get more customers. It's shocking to think that by just handing them $20, you can find a homeless person on the street to stab anyone you want. Chapter 36, Batgirl. Never forget what you are. The rest of the world will not. Tyrion Lannister, Got. Meanwhile, in Wayne Manor's underground, the Batcave. Dick walked in with Alfred through a secret entrance with bags. They were surprised to find someone already in the Batcave. But this person wasn't tall or even male. Clearly, it wasn't Batman who had returned. It was a young red-haired girl wearing a bat-themed helmet and a tight-fitting black suit with a bat symbol on her chest. She was looking for some information while she sat in front of the huge bat computer. In some ways, she looked more like Batman's partner than the red, green, and yellow-cloaked Robin. She was Batgirl, the new street hero who recently appeared in Gotham as the fourth member of the Bat family. To be honest, she didn't really like the name Batgirl. She wanted to be called Batwoman, even though she had just turned 18 2 months ago. But for some reason, when she first appeared in the newspaper, the media called her Batgirl. Hey Alfred, and Little Elf Boots, you're back. Seeing that Alfred and Dick had returned, Batgirl greeted them. Hey, we agreed not to call me Elf Boots. Dick was not happy with the nickname Batgirl used to call him, and he twitched. Is that so? I don't remember making any agreements with anyone. Maybe when you finally change those childish green boots, I'll think about it. Batgirl spread her hands and said it with a smirk. Everyone in the circus wears these boots. I'm not changing them. Well, yeah, the shape is kind of funny, but that's its charm. Dick raised an eyebrow. I'm glad to see you, Ms. Gordon. Alfred smiled and said to Batgirl. If the GCPD heard his name, they would definitely look at Batgirl carefully because their respected commissioner's last name was Gordon. Moreover, Commissioner Gordon also had a daughter who had recently turned 18, the same age as Batgirl. That's right, Batgirl's real identity was none other than Commissioner Gordon's daughter, Barbara Gordon. It seems like you two have been busy today. Would you like some late-night dinner? Looking at the thick files in the Batcomputer in front of Batgirl, it was obvious that he would have to work for a long time, so Alfred suggested. "Thank you so much, Alfred. Because of some jerk, I didn't even have time for dinner, and now I'm starving." A surprised expression appeared on Batgirl's face, and she said gratefully, "No need to thank me. It's my pleasure." Alfred turned and headed towards the kitchen to prepare some food and coffee for Batgirl and Dick. Meanwhile, Dick placed the bag in a corner against the wall. There was a huge cabinet there with hundreds of small glass cases, each one protected by ultra-strong glass. In the cabinet, there are many items stored, all of which are strange and rare things. There were Two-Face's coins, Riddler's cane, Killer Croc's teeth, Scarecrow's mask, Harley Quinn's baseball bat, and many more. These are all items that Batman and Robin have collected from different enemies. Most of them were collected due to some strange collecting addiction, and a small number of special items were put into the GCPD evidence room because they were more dangerous. Batman couldn't trust others to keep them safe, so he took them back himself. Dick took out a white cloak from his handbag and placed it in an empty cabinet case. Batgirl noticed his actions and asked curiously, "I heard you've been having a heated battle with that popular phantom thief recently. Is this his cloak? What a strange word you used." Dick couldn't help but comment. "I just heard from Alfred that you seem to have a good impression of Phantom Thief. Aren't you afraid Batman will get angry if he finds out?" Batgirl shrugged. "You know he never likes us to judge criminals based on personal feelings." "Haha." Dick gave a strange laugh. "I used to believe that too until I learned about his history with Catwoman." Batgirl was amused by what Dick said. "You know what? I totally agree with you, but..." Batgirl then turned to the Batcomputer, facing away from Dick. "I can actually understand why Bruce would always be soft on Catwoman, especially after seeing her in person once. Wow, she's a smoking hot beauty. As for her Phantom Thief..." The more he listened, the more uneasy Dick felt. He crossed his arms over his chest, and his face grew serious. "What do you mean?" "Nothing. I'm just thinking, if I told your girlfriend at the Titan Tower about this, would she believe it?" Batgirl smirked, making Dick's eyelids twitch. "I'm just kidding. Don't take it seriously. By the way, did you run into any troublemakers today? Need my help?" Dick asked suddenly. "No need, I can handle it by myself. Honestly, I'm more worried if you need my help dealing with Phantom Thief." Batgirl turned her head to look at the Batcomputer and said with her back to Dick, "You've faced him twice already and still got no useful information. His real name, age, appearance, job, and life history are all blank. There's already one file on him in the Batcomputer's database, and we don't need a second one." Batgirl said. "That's because you haven't fought Phantom Thief yourself. If you have, you'll know how difficult he is to deal with." Dick folded his hands on his chest, with a serious face, and said, "He is very smart, maybe not as smart as Riddler, but he also doesn't have the obsessive-compulsive disorder that the Riddler likes to leave clues for the enemy. It's hard to figure out Phantom Thief's plans. Also, Phantom Thief's disguising techniques are very clever. If it weren't for the fact that I saw him tearing off the disguised mask of William with my own eyes, I might have thought he had shape-shifting powers like Clayface." Dick explained. "But Phantom Thief's acting is even better than Clayface. Unless you know every small detail of the person and can see his flaws, it's impossible to directly recognize his disguise. Phantom Thief is very cautious and knows all about the police's arrangements and monitoring systems. He doesn't leave any trace and can even avoid all the surrounding surveillance," Dick continued. "The only clue we have is that Phantom Thief's identity might be a magician, but there are too many magicians in Gotham, and we don't even know his age. So it's impossible to identify him." Dick shook his head with a bitter smile. "I once asked a professional magician to help investigate Phantom Thief's suspects based on his magical skills, and then I got 20 candidates. But after checking them one by one, I found that none of them could be Phantom Thief. Batgirl slowly became interested as she listened to Dick's description. Is it really that difficult to deal with this phantom thief as you say? Chapter 37, Chapter 37, Gotham City Public Library. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while you could miss it. Ferris Bueller. Believe me, if you've seen Phantom Thief once, you'll know that I'm not making things up. Dick said this seriously to Batgirl. Are you sure, you can handle it alone? You don't need my help. Batgirl asked with a questioning look. I told you I don't need your help. Can we stop talking about Phantom Thief for a moment? What are you investigating right now? Dick changed the subject. He walked over to Batgirl and looked at the huge screen of the Bat computer. Let me see. Garfield Linz. Firefly. Seeing the name displayed in the Bat file, Dick asked in surprise. Yeah, remember when he and that stupid killer moth set fire to the GCPD headquarters? It was me who clearly defeated the two of them, but in the end, the newspaper said it was you and Batman who did it. Hearing this, Dick smiled awkwardly and said, you know, in our line of work, we shouldn't care about fame and credit. As long as the bad guys are stopped, it doesn't matter who did it, right? In fact, it wasn't about Dick and Batman taking credit away from Batgirl that day. Even though Batgirl had already taken down Killer Moth and Firefly by the time they got there, she wasn't in good shape herself at the time. So, the task of taking Firefly and Killer Moth into custody fell to Batman and Robin. Since there were no witnesses to the entire battle, the police and the media only saw Batman and Robin, and they didn't even know what Batgirl had done. With Batman's personality, he wouldn't go out of his way to tell anyone that Batgirl actually caught the criminals. Suit yourself. Batgirl replied calmly. Cough, cough. Dick coughed twice and curiously asked, after that incident, didn't Firefly and Killer Moth get sent to Arkham Asylum? Why are you digging into their old files again? A few weeks ago, a district attorney proposed to reopen the GCPD arson case. He thinks that the psychological analyses of Firefly and Killer Moth aren't clear enough and that they might have been faked. So they were preparing to transfer the two of them to Blackgate Penitentiary for imprisonment. Batgirl explained. That doesn't sound like a bad thing. Dick said. I thought so too until I received some really bad news yesterday. Firefly escaped. Dick furrowed his brow tightly. How did he escape? What about Killer Moth? Who knows? When a prison guard made his morning rounds, he suddenly discovered that Firefly was missing. There were no signs, and the surveillance didn't catch anything. As for Killer Moth, he's still in prison. Maybe Firefly had a falling out with him. Batgirl shrugged helplessly. I've been tracking Firefly after hearing about this. I hacked into Gotham's entire surveillance system and found over 30 locations where he was spotted. I spent the whole day checking those places, even dealt with several criminals on the streets. I couldn't find Firefly. So, I came back to check the Bat files and look through the Bat files to see if I could guess the possible places he would go from Firefly's past experiences. You know, the information in the Bat computer is much more detailed than the GCPD's database. Dick nodded and suggested, I can help you with some of that. In fact, you can't, Master Richard. At this point, Alfred came over and interrupted him with 2 plates of chicken sandwiches and 2 cups of coffee. I'm sorry to have to remind you, but you still have homework to complete. Alfred is right. A young boy like you who's still in school should go and finish your assignments obediently, or else be careful of Bruce coming back to spank you. Batgirl said it with a sly smile. If you encounter any difficult problems that you can't solve, feel free to ask me for help, she added. Dick glanced at her and didn't argue back because he knew that he couldn't really compete with the girl in front of him when it came to studying. At 16 years old, Dick was still in his 4th year at Gotham Academy, waiting to take this year's ACT or SAT exams. While 18-year-old Batgirl had already graduated from Gotham University 6 months ago with a PhD in library management. Grabbing a sandwich and stuffing it into his mouth, Dick went to the side to finish his schoolwork while Batgirl continued with her task. After a while, Batgirl finished reviewing all the files and stretched lazily before getting up from her chair and walking towards the Batcave's garage. "I'm heading back now, see you tomorrow, Alfred and Elf Boots," Batgirl said as she hopped onto a Batcycle, said goodbye to Alfred and Dick, and then left the Batcave. The night passed without much incident. The next day, Sunday. Gotham Burnley District, Sutton Manor. When Dean woke up and got out of bed, it was already 9:30 o'clock in the morning. After getting ready, he had a simple breakfast and left the house. Dean had a very important plan to do today, so he was planning to go to Gotham City Public Library. Of course, he didn't go there to do school research. Although Dean had schoolwork just like Dick, and he hadn't even started on it yet, he wasn't worried at all. In his previous life, he could even finish summer homework in a single night with just a pen. This weekend's schoolwork was nothing to Dean. The reason he was going to the library was actually to prepare a new notice letter. It must be said that writing the notice letter was really difficult. It had to be cleverly mysterious, not too direct, but also not too much. It had to be difficult enough to decipher but also not impossible to figure out. This forced Dean to learn a lot of unknown knowledge that normal people would never bother to learn so as to have more knowledge to use when writing the notice letter. On the way, he also took care of a fake pink fantasy and threw it into a random garbage can. Arriving at the library, Dean went straight to the section on ancient religious mythology. He picked up a book with a mysterious cover and started flipping through it while standing there. As he was reading, a surprised voice suddenly came from the aisle to Dean's left. "An introduction to Greco-Roman polytheism? I didn't expect anyone to be interested in that kind of book." Dean turned his head and saw a red-haired girl wearing glasses staring at him in surprise, and at the book in his hand. The girl looked a year or two older than Dean, with a tall and well-attractive figure. She was wearing a white uniform with a name tag that read Library Administrator. She was pushing a cart full of books, apparently organizing them. "Oh. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't mean to disturb you while you were reading. I was just so surprised because from the first day I started working here until now, I've never seen anyone looking for and reading books from this section." Noticing Dean's gaze, the girl immediately realized that she might have interrupted him and quickly apologized. Chapter 38, Barbara. No one notices your sadness until it turns into anger, and then you're the bad person. Unknown. Don't worry, there aren't many people coming to this library in Gotham, and even fewer people are interested in reading boring books. So it's already good that you didn't mistake me for a suspicious robber. Dean spoke calmly as he closed the book and put it back on the shelf. Besides, I was just planning to leave and get something to eat. Dean continued, realizing it was already close to 1:30 in the afternoon. So it's not really a regular mealtime. But Dean ate breakfast quite late, so he wasn't very hungry. He had been reading for a while and had lost track of time. Dean might have kept reading longer if the librarian girl hadn't spoken up just now. "Is that so? Well then, I have to recommend the dining area in our library to you. I swear in my father's name that the cheese rolls they sell there are the best in all of Gotham, and the best part is that they are affordable. So, I really suggest you give it a try." The girl eagerly recommended the library's food to Dean when she heard that he was going to eat. Dean wondered if the cheese rolls were really that good or if she was just trying to attract customers to the library. This kind of library shouldn't need help from the government to keep running, right? But maybe they hired someone else to run the dining area, or they just wanted to make a little extra money. However, he didn't bother thinking too much about it. He dismissed these meaningless thoughts, as he wasn't interested in such matters. If the police commissioner's daughter highly recommends the food, then it can't be that bad. In that case, let me go and try it. Dean said as he got up and headed towards the dining area in the library. Wait. What did you say just now? The librarian girl hurriedly grabbed Dean and asked in shock. "Do you know me?" "No, this is our first meeting." "Then how do you know my identity?" The girl looked at Dean suspiciously. "It's simple. The requirements for hiring librarians at Gotham City Public Library are much higher than in regular libraries, and employees can enjoy government benefits. Unless you have studied library management in college or have parents who are public servants, it's rare for someone to qualify for a formal position here. Additionally, the color of your employee badge is dark blue, which means you have a higher rank than other librarians here." Dean explained it naturally. "It is impossible for ordinary people at your age to get this position." "But what does that have to do with being the police commissioner's daughter? Can't I be the daughter of any government official?" the girl asked with suspicion. Dean smiled faintly and replied, "In Gotham, officials are usually not very clean. Their children would not be interested in a low-paying job like being a librarian, which has many benefits but an extremely low salary. It is even more impossible for them to endure the hardship of practicing martial arts all year round. You, on the other hand, have a different background. You have trained in martial arts, maybe judo or karate. This can be seen in the calluses on your hands and the tight muscles on your legs. That type of physique is different from someone who just works out. It's developed from years of hard work and hitting hard objects. It shows that you are very focused and have been practicing for a long time. Unlike those rich second generations who take martial arts classes, they usually do it for fun and wouldn't achieve the same level of body as you." Dean continued. "Especially in the world of DC Comics, if any wealthy or official second-generation member seriously learns martial arts, it's 100% sure that they will become a vigilante or superhero. But there aren't many superheroes, so seeing one is not something you can see every day. With the environment in Gotham, it's rare for families to send their daughters to learn combat techniques systematically. Those who are often focused on the political and legal systems, like police officers, lawyers, and judges, have a better understanding of the city's hidden darkness than ordinary people. They are also wealthier than ordinary families, so they would want you to have the power to protect yourself. After all, they can't keep their daughters at home forever." As the conversation went on, the girl's interest was slowly aroused. "According to what you said, even if my parents possibly work in the political and legal system, why do you think it's Commissioner Gordon? There are other police officers who have daughters as well?" the girl asked with curiosity. "Well, that's where my friend comes in. He has a lot of sources of information and once told me about Commissioner Gordon's genius daughter, who graduated from Gotham University with a doctorate in library management at the age of 18. It is obvious that it is you." Dean shrugged, raising an eyebrow. He wasn't lying, this friend was actually Dick, and they had known each other for many years and often talked about things they knew. Dick always complained to Dean about the corruption among the city's high-ranking officials, while Dean would reveal some secrets of magic to Dick. Dick had mentioned Commissioner Gordon's daughter during one of these discussions, but Dean hadn't paid much attention to it, and he didn't know that Barbara was Batgirl. The girl fell silent for a moment and said, "So, you actually knew that my father is Jim Gordon, and everything you said earlier was just nonsense?" Dean smiled slightly and said, "Why call it nonsense? Did I say something wrong? Okay, fine. Your observation skills are amazing. You should become a private detective. I'm Barbara Gordon. May I ask what your name is?" Barbara introduced herself officially and then asked for Dean's name. "Nice to meet you, Ms. Gordon. I'm Dean Sutton, and this is a little gift for our first meeting." Dean stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers, and a pink rose appeared out of thin air. He slightly bowed and handed the flower to Barbara. "Oh, thank you. You can do magic tricks as well." Barbara graciously accepted the rose, slightly surprised. Conjuring a rose is not a rare technique, it can be considered a basic skill that every magician knows. But because of this, it is harder to do it, especially in front of an audience with sharp eyes. Batgirl's eyesight clearly fell into the category of excellent eyesight. Barbara could see through most close-up magic tricks at a glance. But when Dean conjured the rose just now, Barbara couldn't understand his technique at all. It's not that she didn't understand, but that she couldn't see it. Barbara knew the method behind this magic trick, and she could even perform it successfully herself. But it was basically impossible to do it, to the level that Dean's trick cannot be seen at all. But Dean doesn't know that Barbara is Batgirl because there are too many Batgirl versions of DC Comics, like Betty Kane, Cassandra Cain, Stephanie Brown, and more. Now that I think about it, I seem to have heard the name Sutton somewhere before. I remember now. You're the famous young prodigy magician. Barbara suddenly seemed to recall something. Grayson mentioned you before. Wait a minute, you said your friend told you about Commissioner Gordon's daughter? Could it be? Yes, you guessed right. My friend is Dick Grayson. Dean admitted it frankly. Chapter 39, Chapter 39, Dragon's Egg Ruby Necklace. If you don't share someone's pain, you can never understand them. Nagato, Naruto. Gotham City Public Library, Dining Area. It's hard to imagine why a library would have a dining area. Who would be hungry while reading here? It is very common for a library and a coffee shop to be together, as it's more in line with the normal habit of reading and having coffee at the same time. When Dean first entered the dining area, he found the surroundings surprisingly nice. Although there weren't many customers eating here, the whole place was very clean and tidy. The decor was simple and looked like that of McDonald's. In fact, compared to a restaurant for new customers, Dean felt that this place was more like the cafeteria of the library. There were obviously more people wearing librarian uniforms than those who came to read books, which may also be the reason why the mealtime has passed. At this moment, a waiter walked over with a tray of food and placed it on Dean's table. Sir, this is your order for the cheese and beef roll combo. Enjoy your meal. The combo meal consisted of 2 beef rolls, a serving of French fries, and a glass of freshly squeezed lemonade. The cheese beef rolls were much larger than McDonald's chicken rolls, and the whole combo meal was quite good and affordable. According to Barbara's recommendation of the food being of good quality and a reasonable price, so far it seems she was right. Thank you. Dean thanked the waiter, but instead of immediately eating, he looked at the red-haired girl sitting across the table. So, why did you come along, Ms. Gordon? Dean asked with a strange expression on his face. Aren't you supposed to be organizing all those books on the book cart? Actually, that wasn't my job in the first place. Barbara shrugged with boredom, saying, as you said, my position is one level higher than the other librarians, so my tasks are not about organizing books. Instead, I manage the librarians, even though there aren't many people for me to manage here. I pushed the cart to organize the books just now mainly because I had nothing else to do and wanted to help the other staff a bit. Barbara smirked and added, but now that I see someone more interesting than organizing books, so I came over. Wow, I'm flattered. Dean exaggeratedly replied. You probably won't believe how famous you are. When I was still a student in school, almost every female classmate dreamed of having your autographed photo. Even though I was too busy preparing for my thesis for early graduation and didn't have the time to pay attention to magic shows or anything like that, I still constantly hear your name from time to time. Barbara's face was serious. The title of Gotham's genius young magician was quite impressive. Especially when Dean had a handsome and charming face, it attracted even more young female fans. If this was the case at the Gotham University where Barbara was, it's easy to imagine how terrible it would be at the high school Dean himself was in. Dean couldn't remember how many girls wanted to date him, but he had always rejected all of them. Whenever on Valentine's Day, Dean's locker or drawers in school would be filled with piles of confession letters, flowers, and chocolates, which had always been a source of distress for him. This situation also made the boys at school generally unfriendly towards Dean, so he usually only hung out with Dick. It wasn't until Dean basically stopped performing on stage in the past 2 years and his reputation slowly declined that his situation improved a lot. Genius young magician? That's all in the past, just an empty reputation. There are plenty of magicians out there who are more better than me. Dean took a bite of his cheese beef roll and chewed it before swallowing. He said, like the Zatara family from Gotham City, both of them are top-notch magicians. The younger is even younger than me, and he is considered the #1 prodigy magician in Gotham. Eating alone can be a bit boring, so Dean started chatting with Barbara. Now that you've tried the cheese beef roll, how does it taste? Is it amazing? Barbara suddenly looked expectantly at Dean and asked. It's pretty good. Dean was a bit unsure of how to respond to the question and pondered for a moment before giving an honest answer. Overall, the taste was good. At least Dean didn't find any issues with it. It might be slightly better than a regular cheese beef roll. As for whether it was the best cheese beef roll in Gotham, it's hard to say. After all, Dean hadn't tried rolls from other places. In short, Dean gave his ratings. I told you the recipe was good. Surprisingly, when Barbara heard Dean's response, she said excitedly. You don't know, a few days ago, the head chef decided to change the recipe for the cheese beef roll. She thought changing the flavor would attract more customers to eat, but it was a disaster. Speaking up to this point, Barbara glanced at the counter discreetly, then leaned closer to Dean and whispered. You haven't tried the other foods in the dining area, so you don't understand, but believe me, the only thing worth eating here is this beef roll. If they really change the recipe, I'm afraid I'll have to order takeout every day. But if customers give feedback that the cheese beef roll is delicious, it could convince her not to change the current recipe. Unfortunately, very few people order this food. Luckily, you came today. Upon hearing this, Dean fell into deep thought. I don't know why, but suddenly I feel that the cheese beef roll on the plate tastes different. At the same time, the Diamond District of Gotham, an area filled with wealthy people, it is the safest part of the city. It is also the Penguin's stronghold, where the Iceberg Lounge is located. Yes, you heard it right. The place where Penguin lives is the safest part of Gotham City than the GCPD headquarters and the old Gotham district where the city government lives. Inside the Iceberg Lounge, a woman who appeared to be in her 40s, perfectly dressed from head to toe, nervously walked into Penguin's office. She wore a diamond necklace around her neck, but the diamonds were not the focus of the necklace. Instead, they played a supporting role. The real treasure was a huge oval-shaped ruby, the size of a palm, hanging from the necklace, a priceless gem. In the office, Penguin sat alone at his desk, looking at her with a smile on his face. Welcome to the Iceberg Lounge, Mrs. Chandler. What do you want from me, Oswald? Mrs. Chandler took a deep breath, mustered her courage, and coldly asked. Don't be so rude. I never asked my men to capture you. I simply had them invite you over. Penguin still maintained his smile, his gaze fixed on Mrs. Chandler's chest. I have to say, you've taken good care of yourself. I remember you're over 60 now, yet you still look so young. It seems those legends about the dragon's egg ruby necklace maintain your youth is true. Seeing Penguin's gaze focused on her necklace, Mrs. Chandler's expression immediately changed. Save it, Oswald. I will never let you take it away. You misunderstand me too deeply. I'm a businessman, not a criminal. Why would I want to take away your most beloved necklace? Penguin shook his head slightly and looked like he was ashamed. Mrs. Chandler, your necklace is one of Gotham's most famous treasures, yet it has never been publicly exhibited. So many people can only imagine what it looks like, don't you think it's a pity? What are you trying to say? Mrs. Chandler said coldly. I just believe that the people of Gotham have the right to see this city's treasure with their own eyes. Penguin smiled lightly and kindly said, so I've decided to hold an exhibition soon, and I hope you can agree to exhibit this dragon's egg ruby necklace. Chapter 40, Chapter 40, Breaking News. Be the change that you wish to see in the world. Mahatma Gandhi. Gotham City Public Library, dining area. In the middle of a casual conversation with Barbara, Dean finished his cheese beef roll combo. A news broadcast suddenly interrupted the Big Bang Theory that was currently playing on an old hanging television in the cafeteria. This is Gotham Channel 7, I'm your host, Reese White, and we have a breaking news report. At this moment, we are interviewing in front of one of Gotham's oldest families, the current matriarch of the Chandler family, Mrs. Evelyn Chandler. Just an hour ago, Mrs. Chandler announced some exciting news. She has decided to publicly exhibit the Chandler family's heirloom, the dragon's egg ruby necklace, which has been passed down through the Chandler family for centuries. This is the first time the Chandler family has agreed to exhibit this necklace to the outside world. It is rumored that a total of 130 diamonds are placed around this necklace to set off the huge ruby hanging on it. This treasure is said to have the power to keep one forever young. Many people believe that Mrs. Chandler, who is in her 60s, looks at least 20 years younger than she looks because of wearing this necklace. It is not known whether it is true or not. Upon hearing this breaking news, Dean's heart moved, and he seemed to look at the TV by accident as he lifted his head. Barbara also turned her head to watch the TV, and the two of them made the same movements at the same time, although Barbara's movements were perhaps a bit faster. So this is what they mean by girls can't resist the attraction of jewelry. Dean looked at the back of Barbara's head and thought to himself. In other news, the Phantom Thief, who has been very active in Gotham recently, has committed crimes twice in a row. Why did Mrs. Chandler decide to exhibit the dragon's egg ruby necklace at this time? Now let's switch to the live scene of the press conference. As soon as the news anchor, Reese White, finished speaking, the TV screen switched to a bustling square. There were numerous reporters surrounding Mrs. Chandler, and cameras were flashing non-stop. Mrs. Chandler, you've always been against publicly exhibiting the dragon's egg ruby necklace. What made you change your mind? A familiar blonde female reporter squeezed her way to the front row and raised her microphone to ask Mrs. Chandler. This reporter was none other than Vicky Vale. She was indeed Gotham's most famous star reporter, and she was always seen on almost every hot topic in Gotham. There's no particular reason. It's just that after growing older, I've come to realize many things that I was obsessed with in my youth. Mrs. Chandler spoke calmly. Her expression was comfortable, as if these words were truly from her heart. The dragon's egg ruby necklace is not only a family heirloom but also a treasure of Gotham. While I can't go against my ancestors' wishes and donate it to a museum, I believe that all the people of Gotham have the right to see this treasure with their own eyes. So. Mrs. Chandler's eyes flashed with a hidden strangeness, but she quickly covered it up. I decided to invest with the Cobblepot family to hold a grand exhibition at the Natural History Museum. The exhibition will run from March 1st to the 15th, and all tickets will be sold at a 30% discount during the exhibition. As soon as her announcement came out, the audience was in an uproar. There is nothing wrong with the exhibition, which runs for half a month, and there is nothing wrong with paying 30% off the tickets. It is not also a big problem to choose the exhibit at the Natural History Museum. However, CO sponsoring the event with the Cobblepot family was a different issue. The Cobblepot family was considered an old wealthy in Gotham and used to have a higher status than the Chandler family. Unfortunately, their former glory had long faded, and the Cobblepot family now only had Oswald Cobblepot. Everyone knew he had another identity, a chilling one. Penguin. Why would Penguin CO sponsor an exhibition with the Chandler family? Mrs. Chandler, Oswald Cobblepot is currently under investigation for alleged money laundering by authorities. Aren't you afraid of any consequences for cooperating with him? Vicky continued her questioning. Mrs. Chandler glanced at her calmly and replied, "Please mind your words, Ms. Reporter. As far as I know, there's no evidence to prove Oswald's involvement in money laundering. If you continue making such careless comments, I'll have security escort you out." Well, if you insist, I apologize for my words. If I may, I have one final question for you. Seeing Mrs. Chandler's attitude, Vicky's eyes flickered, and she finally asked. Mrs. Chandler, have you heard of the Phantom Thief? He is a notorious jewel thief who has been active in Gotham recently. Aren't you worried that he might target your necklace? I am aware of this thief, but I am not afraid. I have full confidence in the future security measures for the exhibition. Mrs. Chandler spoke with a confident expression. That's all for the news for now. Thank you for watching. I'm your host, Reese White. Stay tuned for our next program, where I will report the latest news. With that, the news broadcast ended, and the TV resumed playing The Big Bang Theory in a loop. After watching the news, Dean was lost in thought. CO sponsoring an exhibition with the Penguin. Was that some kind of century-old joke? Unless Mrs. Chandler had lost her mind, there was no way she would willingly cooperate with the Penguin. The only possibility is that Penguin is forcing her to publicly exhibit the necklace. But the question is, why would the Penguin do this? If he wants the necklace, he could just steal it or buy it directly. It's too simple for him. What good does it do Penguin to simply put a priceless ruby necklace on public display? It seems there's more to it than meets the eye. Dean silently thought to himself. Hey, Dean, can I call you Dean? I suddenly remembered that I have some important work to do, so I have to go now. At this time, Barbara suddenly told Dean that she had an urgent matter and quickly disappeared. Dean noticed the anxiousness in her expression, but he didn't think much of it, especially since he also had something urgent to do himself. Meanwhile, at the Iceberg Lounge, Penguin finished watching the news on TV, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. You're so sure that Phantom Thief will fall for it? A shadowy figure in the corner spoke, almost invisible. Humph, in Gotham, no one would fall for such a thing. But I'm sure he will come. Penguin smirked coldly and spoke with determination about his plan. It doesn't matter, as long as I take down the Phantom Thief, I'll get $500,000, right? That's all I need to know. The shadowy figure slowly disappeared. A burning Phantom Thief. This might turn out to be an interesting piece of work. Chapter 41, Chapter 41, The Third Notice Letter. If you kill a killer, the number of killers in the world remains the same. Batman. Wayne Manor, Batcave. Batgirl rode her Batcycle into the Batcave. Meanwhile, Alfred was discussing something with Dick. Hey! Alfred, Elf Boots, it looks like I came just in time. What were you guys talking about? Barbara took off her helmet and greeted them. Welcome back, Miss Gordon. Alfred replied with his usual warm smile. Hey, Barbara, are you still investigating the Firefly's escape? Dick asked. Not for the time being. I still haven't found the location of Firefly. This is very unusual. In a city as big as Gotham, he can't move outside without leaving any clues. Someone must have hidden him. Who would have the time to hide a pyromaniac lunatic? Hearing this, Dick rubbed his chin and muttered to himself. Barbara shook her head and said, I don't have a clue yet, there are too many suspects, and it's going to take forever to find out who hid him. So, what brings you here today? Dick looked at Barbara strangely. As the daughter of the Commissioner of Police and a librarian, Barbara usually kept a low profile and didn't visit the Batcave unless it was necessary. Well, I saw some interesting news not long ago. Barbara told the news she had seen and added her own thoughts. Partnership with Penguin to hold an exhibition? That's a stupid idea. Even if Mrs. Chandler were really old and unstable, she wouldn't make such a decision. There must be something fishy behind this. Barbara confidently said, I think it's probably Penguin who started this. He wanted to use the exhibition to attract someone's attention. After listening to Barbara's words, Dick's expression became strange. When did you become so interested in the Phantom Thief? Didn't I tell you not to get involved in this? Dick observed Barbara warily. But last time, you said that if I faced the Phantom Thief in person, I would know what he was capable of. I really want to face this Phantom Thief right now. Barbara shrugged her shoulders, raised the corners of her mouth, and said, besides, you have already failed to catch the Phantom Thief twice. This time Penguin is likely to make a lot of noise. I think it is necessary to give you some help. So if Phantom Thief really wants to steal the Dragon's Egg ruby necklace, then I will get involved. At this time, Alfred, who was next to him, interrupted and said, Miss Gordon, it's great that you are willing to cooperate with Master Richard. We were discussing this matter just now. That's not for you to decide, Alfred. Barbara and I have clear and different responsibilities, and the Phantom Thief is mine. She just needs to focus on her own neighborhood. Dick said it in a hurry, curling his lips unhappily. Wow, it's so rare to see you get emotional. Where did our smart and agile Wonder Boy go? Barbara exaggeratedly covered her mouth and exclaimed with wide eyes. Humph! Dick snorted and turned his head away. Barbara was amazed by his reaction and turned to Alfred, saying, Alfred, do all boys in their teenage years act like this? I can imagine how difficult it must be for you. Hee hee. Alfred chuckled mysteriously. Sometimes, Master Richard does some things that give me a headache, but compared to Master Bruce in the past, he is already a very good-behaved child. Hearing this sentence, Barbara's eyes lit up instantly, and she immediately asked, what did Bruce do before? Dick on the side still kept turning his head and sulking, but his ears visibly moved. Seeing that both kids were eager to hear old stories, Alfred began to reminisce. When Master Bruce was 15 years old, he late at night, Chandler Manor. Unlike Wayne Manor, which appears ancient and rustic, the ancestral home of the Chandler family has been torn down and rebuilt several times over the years. It has been upgraded with the most advanced top materials, such as fireproofing, explosion-proofing, and earthquake resistance, making it almost like a fortress. On the other hand, Wayne Manor remains the same old house from 100 years ago, with even some of the wooden parts even smell musty. However, the inside decorations of both manors are quite similar, focusing on a low-key and ordinary aesthetic. In the room, Mrs. Chandler was sitting on the sofa with a sad face and sorrowful eyes. Compared to when she was in front of the camera, she seems to be more than 20 years older now, and the necklace she often wears around her neck has disappeared. Madam, what did Oswald exactly do to you? Did he steal your necklace? An old housekeeper asks, standing before Mrs. Chandler, his eyes filled with sadness and anger. Even if you don't tell me, I can guess that Penguin wants to use you as his revenge tool. He has no idea what that necklace means to you. He's just a shameful thug, a robber, a murderer. He has damaged the reputation of the Cobblepot family. We cannot let him manipulate us. Enough. Mrs. Chandler suddenly became agitated. What can I do? Your curses won't change anything. Oswald's decisions have never changed. When he came to me, I had no other choice. I apologize, madam, for my outburst. The old butler sighed. I'm tired. You may leave now. Mrs. Chandler closed her eyes, her voice calm. Soon, the sound of the door closing echoed through the room. The old butler stands silently at the doorway for a while before finally walking away. Wait. Not long after, Mrs. Chandler suddenly came running out and stopped him. What do you need, madam? The old butler immediately bowed and asked. I have thought about what you said earlier, and you're right. We cannot let the Penguin manipulate us. Mrs. Chandler places a hand on the old butler's shoulder, determination on her face. Arrange a car and a driver for me immediately. I'm going to the GCPD to seek help from Commissioner Gordon. Upon hearing her decision, the old butler becomes excited and quickly turns around to make the necessary arrangements. Not long after, the old butler began to feel that something was off. The madam had a look of worry earlier. How did her mood change so quickly? And I didn't hear the sound of the door opening just now. Most importantly, Mrs. Chandler's face seemed younger. The more the old butler thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. When he quickly turned around to check, there was no trace of Mrs. Chandler in the hallway, and there was also no sound when the door was opened and closed. "Madam!" With a loud bang, the old butler hurriedly rushed back into the room. Mrs. Chandler was startled by the sudden return of the old butler. She was about to scold him when her attention was drawn to something on his left shoulder. "What is that on your left shoulder?" Mrs. Chandler asked curiously. Hearing her question, the old butler instinctively turned his head to look. There, a white card was tucked into his collar. Trembling, the old butler took the card off. On the card were written a few lines, with a cartoon head drawn in the bottom right corner. "If 20 multiplied by 3 equals 4. Then I will visit at a non-existent time. When Mars has passed its 10th day and night. Following the guidance of Caesar. I shall come to claim the blood-stained egg. Sincerely, Phantom Thief." Chapter 42, Chapter 42, Difficulty. The best way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. Walt Disney. A few days later. Phantom Thief's notice reappears. Can he continue to write his own legendary tale after successfully completing 2 perfect crimes? What's the difference between a thief and a phantom thief? Looking at the Phantom Thief's 2 crimes, the first one was where the stolen tears of an angel were successfully returned and are now displayed in the art museum. The second one was where he stole the fake-made pink fantasy, providing key evidence to expose the underground money laundering operation. This makes us wonder, is Phantom Thief really guilty? In these days, some citizens of Gotham have been influenced by Phantom Thief's actions, with some even forming their own fan clubs. There are also people who dress up like the Phantom Thief and participate in street parades, only for the GCPD to catch them. This means that a trend of admiring the Phantom Thief is silently rising in Gotham. Whether this situation is good or bad, we do not know. Why does Phantom Thief steal? According to psychological experts, there are rumors that the exhibition of the Dragon's Egg ruby necklace is organized by the infamous Oswald Cobblepot, also known as Penguin, in order to exact revenge for the Phantom Thief disrupting his money laundering business in the Pink Fantasy incident. Is the battle between Phantom Thief and Penguin real or fake? Let's wait and see. Slam. GCPD Headquarters, Commissioner's Office. Jim Gordon angrily slams a few newspapers on the desk, his face dark as if it could drip water. "Calm down, Jim. Why are you getting so worked up over nothing?" Beside him, Harvey Bullock calmly tries to console him. Phantom Thief is just going to return whatever he stole anyway, or the thing he stole was something worthless like a glass bead. It hasn't caused any real economic damage to anyone. I think we don't need to put so much energy into him. Just send a few new officers over to show that we're paying attention. Harvey. How can you say something like that? As soon as Jim hears Harvey's careless words, his expression becomes even more unpleasant. Do you even know what I'm worried about? The Phantom Thief has only appeared for a short time, and already people are imitating him. Right now, they're just imitating his clothes, but who knows if in the future someone will steal in order to further imitate Phantom Thief. As the commissioner of the Gotham City Police Department, Gordon actually has his own separate office and doesn't need to be around the frontline detectives. However, Jim himself started as a detective, and he wants Gotham City to change at least a little bit. So even after becoming commissioner, he remains in the GCPD building and always rushes to the front lines whenever there's a case. This is also something that many people don't understand. Why would Commissioner Gordon personally handle a simple theft case and pay so much attention to the Phantom Thief? Yes, the Phantom Thief follows his own set of codes, but what about others? Could people be using the Phantom Thief's name to extort and deceive others? Never underestimate the moral bottom line of Gotham people, that was something you told me before. Jim stared at Harvey with wide eyes. No matter if the phantom thief returns the stolen items or not, he is still a criminal, and when citizens start idolizing a criminal, that's the beginning of the chaos. Don't tell me you've forgotten everything that happened over a decade ago. We can't let a criminal have a huge public influence again. Faced with Jim's emotionally charged outburst, Harvey gave an awkward grin and apologized quickly. All right, I admit you have a point. I have realized the problems with phantom thieves' growing influence. But should we discuss something else now? Harvey took out a piece of A4 paper with the contents of the phantom thief's latest letter on it and placed it on the table with a serious expression. Tomorrow is the first day of the exhibition. If we can't decipher the notice on this today, then we'll have to guard the exhibition tightly for 15 straight days. The GCPD doesn't have the resources to waste this much money. Jim knew Harvey wasn't making things up. There were too many criminal activities in different districts of Gotham, and many police personnel were needed everywhere. In all of Gotham, the total number of police officers of different types exceeded 30,000, but even after being evenly distributed across all precincts, there wasn't enough manpower. Currently, they are not too busy, but the entire Gotham had only about 1,000 police officers who could be dispatched, and only a small number of those were elite detectives. These 1,000 officers had to be ready to assist in any serious cases that might happen somewhere. It was impossible to call all of them to deal with the phantom thief. It was particularly important to decipher the notice in advance, especially to get the time of the phantom thief's crime, as it could save many police resources. Jim calmed himself down, picked up the notice that phantom thief had faxed to the police station a few days ago, and furrowed his brow. If 20 multiplied by 3 equals 4. Then I will visit at a non-existent time. When Mars has passed its 10th day and night. Following the guidance of Caesar. I shall come to claim the blood-stained egg. Sincerely, Phantom Thief. Just this first sentence had puzzled Jim for several days. What does it mean for 20 multiplied by 3 to equal 4? Shouldn't it be 60? At what time does that not exist? Doesn't it always mean that there is still an hour between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock? And what about following the guidance of Caesar? Does it mean that the phantom thief has traveled through time? Or has Julius Caesar traveled through time? Could Julius Caesar appear out of nowhere to guide the phantom thief? Except for the last sentence, which is about the dragon's egg ruby necklace. The rest of the lines seem like they have 9 out of 10 blocked with just one hole open. At the GCPD, Jim was completely clueless about the notice. On the other side is Wayne Manor, the Batcave. Dick was also pondering how to decipher the phantom thief's notice letter. Somehow, he felt that phantom thief's ability to write these notices was getting stronger, and each puzzle was more difficult to solve than the last. He looked through a lot of math research reports and academic papers on the Bat computer, trying to find an explanation for why 20 multiplied by 3 equals 4. If 20 multiplied by 3 equals 4. This sentence must be the key to unlocking the notice letter. Dick firmly believed. But the question remained, under what circumstances would 20 multiplied by 3 equal 4? He studied all mathematical theories and even found many arguments that 1 plus 1 does not equal 2, but he couldn't find any logical explanation for why 20 multiplied by 3 equals 4. There were only two possibilities. First, Phantom Thief made a mistake. But that was clearly impossible. After ruling out all the possibilities, Dick arrived at the final truth. It's not a mathematical problem at all. At the same time, at the Gotham City Public Library, Barbara looked at the content of the notice, and a glimmer of excitement quietly appeared in her eyes. Chapter 43, First Day of the Exhibition. Hurt me with the truth. But never comfort me with a lie. Urza Scarlet, Fairy Tale. The sentence that reads, 20 times 3 equals 4, is what most people notice when they look at Phantom Thief's notice letter. They think that if they can figure out this sentence, they will be able to figure out all of the notice's clues. However, Barbara had a different perspective. When she couldn't figure out why 20 multiplied by 3 would equal 4, it meant that there was still another extra puzzle hidden within the sentence itself. In other words, it wasn't important whether 20 multiplied by 3 would equal 4. What's important is what these three numbers 20, 3, and 4 represent. And what does the word multiply represent? Barbara shifted her focus to the third and fourth sentences of the notice. Mars and Caesar, one is the god of war in Roman mythology, and the other is the dictator of the Roman Empire. Rome. 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 After pondering for a while, Barbara suddenly remembered the introduction to Greco-Roman polytheism in the religious section of the library. And she also remembered Dean Sutton from the last time she saw him at the library reading it. Could it be a coincidence? Barbara thought suspiciously, I didn't think there was anything unusual when we met last time, but now that I think about it, why would a young magician prodigy be interested in Greco-Roman religious studies? The more she thought about it, the more something seemed off. Barbara's gaze sharpened as she headed to the bookshelf where she had met Dean before, took out the research introduction, and flipped through it. However, after a quick scan, besides information about the Roman god of war, Mars, Barbara did not find any relevant clues to decipher the notice. It seems like I'm just being paranoid. He couldn't possibly. Barbara chuckled and placed the book back on the shelf. Just then, the corner of Barbara's eye caught sight of another book on the shelf. The Negative Impact of the European Church on Cultural Development. On March 1, the first day of the Dragon's Egg Ruby Necklace exhibition. The exhibition venue was the Gotham Natural History Museum. This was the city's biggest museum, with 13 exhibition halls that all connected to each other, each with 5 floors and dozens of large exhibition rooms. Mrs. Chandler's necklace was placed on the top floor of the Central Cultural Exhibition Hall. Today, there were more visitors to the museum than usual. In the past, there were almost no visitors. Now that it has only been open for 2 hours, it has already shown signs of a huge crowd. It's unclear whether it was because of the Dragon's Egg Ruby necklace due to its fame, and everyone wanted to see what it looked like, or if it was because they wanted to see how Phantom Thief would steal the necklace. Over 200 undercover officers from the GCPD kept close watch around the Cultural Exhibition Hall, monitoring every visitor who came. Inside the exhibition hall, nearly 100 police officers were spread out at different locations on the 5 floors. The show of control was pretty impressive, and even visitors followed the rules without even thinking about it. In addition to the Cultural Exhibition Hall, the other exhibition halls also had different numbers of officers assigned to them to act as a roaming task force for timely support if needed. This time, the GCPD sent out more people than they ever had before. But Jim still didn't think it was safe enough. They temporarily brought in 2 police helicopters to patrol the museum. If Phantom Thief tried to surprise them with a glider, the helicopter rotor's airflow would teach him a lesson. However, this time, the police didn't use the face-squeezing method to verify if the visitors were pretending to be Phantom Thief. The exhibition would last for 15 days, and they couldn't be sure when the Phantom Thief would sneak in. If they squeezed every visitor's face for 15 days in a row, it would cause public dissatisfaction. If handled poorly, it could even lead to a fight. This is definitely not the situation Jim wants to see. Therefore, the police could only work hard on surveillance. At this moment, a beautiful young redhead girl walked into the Natural History Museum. As she entered the square, she spotted a familiar figure wearing a cowboy hat leading a patrol team. "Hey, Harvey!" Barbara walked over and greeted Harvey. "Oh, hey, Barbara! Are you here to visit your Uncle Harvey?" Harvey turned around and smiled happily when he heard Barbara's voice. He had known Jim for many years and had watched Barbara grow up. For some reason, he was still single, and deep down, he might have considered Barbara his own daughter. "I'd love to humor you and say yes, but I'm sorry, that's not why I'm here. I came for one purpose only, and that is to see Phantom Thief." Barbara teased playfully, blinking her eyes. "Hush! Suddenly, Harvey made a gesture to silence her and exaggeratedly said, "Be careful. Don't let your dad hear your words. He's so sick of Phantom Thief, it's driving him nuts." "Don't worry, Uncle Harvey, I know very well how much my dad hates Phantom Thief. I suspect if he wasn't afraid of being reported for disturbing the quiet at night, he would spend the whole night criticizing Phantom Thief." Barbara chuckled in amazement. "Anyway, I'm going to go to the exhibition and see what Phantom Thief wants to steal, so I won't bother you to continue patrolling." After separating from Harvey and others, Barbara's mischievous and cute smile vanished in an instant, replaced by seriousness and determination. She calmly took out an earphone and put it on, and a slightly eager voice came through. "Have you entered the museum?" "Obviously, yes." At the same time, in the senior year classroom of Gotham Academy, Dick wore a pair of earphones in his ears. He was having a hidden conversation with Barbara, and he was doing it in the middle of a class. Gotham's private high school was relatively open-minded and did not exactly restrict students from using electronic devices. It was normal to see students wearing earphones and using phones, tablets, and even laptops in class. As long as the students believed that these devices improved their learning efficiency, they were allowed. However, the condition was that when the teacher called on you to answer a question, you had to be able to provide an accurate answer instead of being clueless. Otherwise, it would be seen as a disrespectful attitude towards learning, and your electronic devices would be confiscated on the spot. Therefore, Dick's wearing earphones in the classroom didn't draw much attention. He kept his voice very low, just enough for Barbara and himself to hear, while everyone else around couldn't hear what he was saying. Even Dean, who was sitting in front of him, couldn't hear his voice with his ears. But the interesting thing is that Dean also wears an earphone on his left ear. Chapter 44, Chapter 44, Suspicion. Even if we forget the faces of our friends, we will never forget the bonds that were carved into our souls. Yuzuru Otonashi, Angel Beats. In the back row near the window, Dean listened to the faint voice coming through his earphones and thought to himself. Dick sent someone to the museum. How could Dean hear Dick's conversation? In fact, the method was quite simple. All Dean had to do was crack the electromagnetic frequency that matched Dick and Barbara's phone call, and with a set of techniques, he could easily listen in on conversations. Of course, Dean didn't have that level of hacking expertise yet, and he didn't have the important tools at the moment. In fact, Dean had installed a small bug that looked like a piece of gum on the opposite side of Dick's desk. It was not the first day for Dean to eavesdrop on Dick. As early as the day he appeared as the Phantom Thief, Dean had already started to keep a close eye on Dick. He would come to school early in the morning to install the bug and bring it back after school. It was a very bold and risky move. Once Dick finds out about the bug, or if Dick has some strange habit of touching under the desk, the situation will be very bad for Dean. But on the other hand, Dean knew that so far Dick had still trusted him up to this point, and over the years of knowing each other, Dean had never seen Dick check under the desk. Even if Dick accidentally found the bug, Dean could come up with a prank with sticky gum to gamble his way out, although it would be difficult. In short, Dean thought it was worth the risk to learn about Dick's secret life as Robin, even if there was only a small chance that he could learn something useful. As it turned out, Dean was more right in his bet. Who was Dick talking to, Alfred? Unfortunately, the bug only picked up Dick's voice and not the voices in his earpiece. Dean stayed quiet and seemed to pay attention in class, but he was really focusing on Dick. On the other side, Barbara casually walked around the exhibition as an ordinary visitor. Did you figure out the riddle already that you were so eager for me to come to the museum and investigate? Barbara quietly asked Dick. I've only deciphered one part. Dick paused for a moment, then answered. When Mars has passed its 10th day, it means that Phantom Thief will move on March 11th. Mars, the god of war in Roman mythology, is the origin of the word March. After past its 10th day, it means exactly 10 days, which is March 11th. Barbara wasn't surprised that Dick had deciphered this line, as she had also deciphered it and even more than what Dick had solved. You know that Phantom Thief won't move until the 11th, so why did you ask me to come on the first day? Don't you know how busy I am with work every day? Dick twitched the corners of his mouth as if he had never been to the library. He pretended not to hear and continued. I've fought with Phantom Thief twice before. Although he waits until the set time, it doesn't mean that he will only come to the scene at that time. Phantom Thief's every move is fast and accurate, with a strong purpose, and his escape routes are all planned, which shows that he is very familiar with the location. This much information can't be learned in just a few hours. Dick said earnestly, I'm sure Phantom Thief starts observing the target location several days or even weeks before he takes action. Today is the first day of the exhibition and also the first day that GCPD has settled in a large area. The Phantom Thief is likely to observe the police positions from this point. You might be able to find some clues. I still have 3 days of classes before I can have a 2-day break. So it's difficult for me to leave and go to the museum. So you want me to come? It seems like you've learned some lessons from dealing with Phantom Thief. After hearing Dick's words, Barbara finally understood why this kid asked her to come to the museum early in the morning. There's actually a more important reason. At this moment, Dick suddenly spoke with a serious tone. During the auction at Gotham International Hotel, Phantom Thief sent me a challenge card to Robin, but at that time, I was Dick Grayson, not Robin. Upon hearing this, Barbara's expression changed suddenly. Are you saying that the Phantom Thief knows who you are? Why didn't you tell me this important information earlier? You should have told me that day. What about Bruce and Alfred? What about me? Have we all been exposed? Dick said in a deep voice, honestly, I'm not sure. At least Phantom Thief hasn't used our identities to threaten us or shown any signs of revealing this information to others. I don't think he's a completely bad person. Listening to Dick's words, Barbara couldn't help but think of Dean. She suddenly asked, Dick, do you know Dean Sutton? Dean? He's my classmate. Why do you bring him up? Dick asked in confusion. I ran into him at the library a few days ago, and he was reading works on Greek and Roman religions. Now the new notice letter from Phantom Thief clearly has Roman parts. In addition, he's a young and famous magician. Don't you think it's too much of a coincidence? Barbara whispered. You suspect Dean is the Phantom Thief? Dick raised an eyebrow and chuckled, I know Dean, and he couldn't possibly do those things. At that moment, sitting at the table in front of Dick, Dean suddenly felt a sense of guilt for some reason. I guess it's because I've been eating too many carbs and fats lately. I need to maintain a low body fat percentage. After making a decision in his heart, Dean continued eavesdropping on Dick's conversation. I know you're friends with Dean, and honestly, I don't have a bad impression of him. I don't want to suspect him, but it's just too coincidental. Barbara suggested to Dick, we both don't want Dean to be the Phantom Thief, so I've decided to give you an important task. It's not because I suspect him, but to prove Dean's innocence. After hearing Barbara's suggestion, Dick hesitated a bit on his face, but in the end, Barbara's suspicion was reasonable. All right, I agree with your idea. Dick wasn't a hesitant person, so once he figured things out, he immediately agreed. Don't worry, we won't wrongly accuse anyone who's innocent. By the way. At this moment, Barbara asked with a playful look in her eyes, do you want to know the real meaning behind 20 multiplied by 3 equals 4? Chapter 45, Chapter 45, The Meaning of the Notice Letter. What's the point of living, if all we do is hurt each other? Thorfinn, Vinland Saga. When Dick heard Barbara's words, his pupils instantly shrank. You mean to say you've already figured it out? Dick asked anxiously. Well, what do you think? If I hadn't figured it out, wouldn't it be meaningless for me to ask you? Barbara smirked and said, you must be racking your brains to solve the riddle in the notice, and you can't wait to know what it means. Am I right? Stop teasing me, just tell me already. Dick urged impatiently. Seeing that he was in such a hurry, Barbara stopped teasing and became serious. Do you know Roman numerals? Roman numerals? Of course, I know them. But what does that have to do with the riddle in the notice letter? Dick scowled and questioned, but even using Roman counting, 20 multiplied by 3 still doesn't equal 4. That's because the real values of 20, 3, and 4 are not what they appear to be. They may not represent specific numbers, but rather an order of numbers, Barbara explained. An order of numbers? Dick questioned. Barbara reminded him, do you still remember the 7 basic symbols of Roman numerals? I, 1, V, 5, X, 10, L, 50, C, 100, D, 500, M, 1000, and so on. As Dick recalled these 7 symbols, a flash of ideas came to him. If we consider 20, 3, and 4 as an order of numbers in alphabetical letters, it means we need to convert them into the matching letters and then replace them into the Roman numerals. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Just as he was halfway through the idea, a puzzled expression appeared on Dick's face. If we solve them based on alphabetical numbers, then 3 as C would be equal to 100, and 4 as D would be equal to 500. But 20 is T, which isn't one of the basic symbols of Roman numerals. Hearing this, Barbara's eyes flashed, and she said it meaningfully. According to Roman mythology, polytheism is considered traditional and was slowly replaced by Christianity starting from the time of Constantine the Great. It became a remnant of ancient Rome. In the riddle, the mention of Mars and Caesar symbolizes ancient Roman culture. It seems that Phantom Thief is showing us that we need to solve it using knowledge of ancient Rome. We need to replace the numbers with Roman numerals and the letters with the letters from the Roman period. In ancient Rome, there were no letters J, U, and W. In other words, the order of numbers for the 20th letter in the alphabet is not T but V. When we use Roman numerals, its actual value is the number 5. 20 multiplied by 3 equals 4 means V multiplied by C equals D, which solves 5 multiplied by 100 equals 500, a perfect match. At this point, Dick suddenly understood, and his thoughts became clear. If 20 multiplied by 3 equals 4, then I will visit at a non-existent time. When Mars passes its 10th day and night. Following the guidance of Caesar, I shall come to claim the blood-stained egg. If the intention of the first sentence is Roman numerals, then the non-existent time mentioned in the second line means midnight because there is no 0 in Roman numerals. Without further explanation from Barbara, Dick solved the meaning of the following sentence. Looking at the first 3 lines together, Phantom Thief will move at midnight on March 11th, which is 12 o'clock on March 10th. At this point, Dick frowned. But what does following the guidance of Caesar mean? I haven't figured out this sentence yet. If this sentence is just meant to guide us to focus on ancient Roman-related knowledge, then it seems unnecessary because mentioning Mars would serve the same purpose. After hearing this, Dick nodded in agreement. He also felt that this sentence was not just a simple hint. But Barbara suddenly changed the subject. After coming to the Natural History Museum, I think I understand what he means. Inside the ancient Rome exhibition hall, Barbara looked at a sculpture of Julius Caesar, and her eyes flashed with a hint of understanding. The statue of Julius Caesar appeared as if he were pointing towards the enemy when he was leading the army. If Barbara remembered correctly, the direction the statue was pointing should be towards the Jungle Exhibition Hall on the east side of the museum, where the dragon egg ruby necklace is located. Are you suggesting that Caesar's guidance is just an actual guide and that Phantom Thief will carry out his plan at midnight on March 10th in the Jungle Exhibition Hall? After listening to Barbara's thoughts, Dick asked with doubt. I know it sounds a bit direct, but at least for now, it's the only explanation that makes sense. I haven't found any other guidance of Caesar here. Barbara shook her head and sighed. All right, it seems that there is no other way to solve the puzzle. In short, the time will never be wrong. After thinking for a while, they realized that this was really only one explanation. Dick nodded, agreeing with Barbara's thoughts. So far, the two of them have deciphered the entire content of Phantom Thief's notice letter. After discussing some details of the follow-up arrangements, Dick ended his call with Barbara. At that moment, Dick suddenly heard someone calling his name from ahead. "Hey! Dick! Dick! Snap out of it! Mrs. Anderson is coming to find you!" Dean was calling his name softly while all the classmates looked at him with amused eyes. Dick's heart skipped a beat as he instantly realized something was wrong. "It seems you've finally come to your senses, Mr. Grayson. I called your name 4 times already, and you did not respond at all. I have to question whether your attitude towards learning is good." A deep voice from a middle-aged woman came from beside him. Dick's face immediately stiffened as he looked up and met Mrs. Anderson's gloomy expression. Mrs. Anderson was their math teacher and had a bad temper. Dick realized that the situation was not good. He had been too focused on discussing the notice letter with Barbara and completely missed being called. "Can you give me a reasonable explanation, Mr. Grayson?" Mrs. Anderson asked slowly and deliberately, her eyes filled with pressure. Dick's face broke into a cold sweat as he forced a smile and said, Mrs. Anderson, I was just listening to your class and got completely immersed in the world of mathematics until a few seconds ago." Mrs. Anderson stared into his eyes without any expression. "What you said can only deceive yourself, not anyone else. I think I'll have to confiscate your earphones now, and if you get distracted again, I'll have to talk seriously with Mr. Wayne about your education." After finishing speaking, Mrs. Anderson took away Dick's earphones without any further words and returned to the stage. Chapter 46, The Riddler. Humans aren't made perfectly. Everyone lies. Even so, I've been careful not to tell lies that hurt others. Light Yagami. Ha 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 ha. As Mrs. Anderson left, Dick heard a burst of laughter around him. He knew that his classmates were laughing at him because his earphones had been taken away. Luckily, he had just finished his call with Barbara, or else it would have caused even more trouble. Of course, if the call hadn't ended, Dick wouldn't have let Mrs. Anderson take away the earphones. With Dick's reaction, he could have removed the earphones before Mrs. Anderson touched them. It's just that there is no need for that now, and it's not a big deal if the earphones are taken away. "Hey, what were you listening to that got you so immersed?" Dean turned around and quietly asked. Nothing special, just a few new rock songs." Dick scratched the back of his head and laughed. "Really? I never knew you liked rock." Dean glanced at Dick with his usual expression and warned, "Be careful, Mrs. Anderson has her eyes on you." After speaking, he turned around and sat straight. No one noticed that there was a chewing gum-like object in Dean's hand. That's right, while Mrs. Anderson was taking away Dick's headphones, Dean quietly took back the bug stuck on the back of the table with lightning speed. He had almost heard the entire conversation between Dick and Barbara. From his suspicions about his own identity to the solving of the notice letter, Dean already knew everything. The only downside was that he couldn't hear Barbara's voice, so he couldn't be sure who he was talking to. In any case, it must be one of Batman's people, either the butler Alfred or the Batgirl, whose true identity is still unknown. In short, they have already started to suspect me as the Phantom Thief, and Dick's level of suspicion towards me is not too deep, which means the person he was talking to is the one who truly suspects me. But they probably don't have any evidence to identify me, they are still just guessing. Otherwise, Dick's attitude wouldn't be like this. Dean thought to himself, in their next move, they will surely try to test me. Meanwhile, deep inside Arkham Asylum. In a cell with heavy iron doors tightly locked and high-strength iron bars added to the windows. 2 men, one tall and one short, sit facing each other. The tall, skinny man's hands are handcuffed to the table, restricting his movement. He's also wearing orange inmate clothing. Clearly, he must be a mentally ill criminal who's been imprisoned here. What's strange is that there is no number written on his inmate clothes. Instead, there's a mysterious question mark symbol drawn on it. Sitting opposite him was a short, chubby man with a long, pointed nose, dressed in a tuxedo and holding an umbrella cane. In Gotham City, there is only one person who fits this description. Penguin, Oswald Cobblepot. In the dimly lit cell, the faces of the two men are barely visible, giving off a sinister and terrifying vibe. An indescribable chill affects the entire room, which makes the two fully armed guards disguised as nurses standing at the door shiver. Well, Nigma, any idea? After a long time, the Penguin was the first to speak, mentioning a name that would surely strike fear into the hearts of every Gotham citizen. Edward Nigma, standing at 6 feet 2 inches tall and 35 years old, is a highly intelligent supervillain suffering from a severe mental illness. He is extremely narcissistic about his own intelligence and enjoys using his high IQ to manipulate others. But rather than being called by his real name, he prefers to be called a Riddler. Not long ago, Penguin visited Arkham Asylum to visit the Riddler. At first, the people in charge of the asylum didn't want to let in another notorious criminal. However, all the necessary government documents were in order, so the institution had no reason to keep him outside. The condition was that he could only enter alone and without any personal belongings. At the same time, he had 2 prison guards, nurses, who were always with him and never left his side. When Penguin came face to face with the Riddler, he asked him a few questions, hoping that the Riddler could help him figure out their meaning. That's right, it was the notice letter from the Phantom Thief. Since he couldn't bring any items into Arkham, Penguin could only talk about it with Riddler. Penguin is pressuring Mrs. Chandler to hold an exhibition to seek revenge against the Phantom Thief. If he knows the Phantom Thief's next move, he can set up a perfect trap and take him down on the spot. There's just one problem: the Phantom Thief's notice is too difficult to decipher. Barbara was able to decipher the notice because she happened to remember a book that Dean had read that day, which inspired her. Otherwise, Barbara's progress might not be any faster than Dick's, and she would still be stuck on the line Mars past its 10th day and night. For most people, without the important hints, it's almost impossible to figure out how to decipher the notice, and Penguin was no exception. However, Penguin isn't worried about not being able to solve the notice because he has his own way. If he can't figure it out, he'll have someone else do it. So Penguin approached Riddler, who in his opinion, is the best person in the world at riddles. At this moment, Penguin is eagerly waiting for Riddler's response. Interesting. This riddle is very interesting, and I like it. Who came up with it? Seeing Riddler close his eyes and think, a crazy joy slowly appeared on his face as if he were a child who had just received his favorite toy. Penguin didn't understand his joy, and he didn't want to understand. He just wanted to know what the notice meant. I'm glad you like the gift I brought you, old friend, so now please tell me, have you figured out this riddle? Penguin asked. Oh. Hearing this, Riddler suddenly changed his face and sneered disdainfully. When I say it's interesting, I mean the design of this puzzle makes me feel fresh, not because I think it's difficult. In fact, if I were to rate it according to difficulty, it wouldn't even qualify as a decent riddle in my eyes. The time is midnight on March 10th, the location is, if it really is the Natural History Museum, and if I'm not mistaken, it's the Jungle Exhibition Hall. The Riddler quickly revealed all the answers to Penguin. I won't bother explaining the reason to you, Oswald, as I know you don't care. Penguin grinned and said, you're still as smart as ever. I only need the result. The process is not important. I'm glad to see you today, old friend, but visiting hours are over, so I have to go now. Wait. Riddler stopped Penguin and fixed his gaze on him, asking, tell me, who is this person? He calls himself Phantom Thief, a thief who likes to show off. Penguin turned slightly and replied with his eyes with a hint of killing intent, which fell into the eyes of Riddler, but it was not directed at him. You don't need to take this person seriously, Nigma, because 10 days from now, you won't have the chance to meet him again. Chapter 47, Consultant. You believe I cannot pray with a single arm? A prayer comes from the heart. Isaac Netero, Hunter x Hunter. At the Natural History Museum, after Barbara hung up the call with Dick, she went straight to where Commissioner Gordon was. The Surveillance Control Center is on the top floor of the Cultural Exhibition Hall. A few guards at the entrance stopped her when she arrived at the control room. Sorry, Ms. Gordon, but no one is allowed to go in without an order from the Commissioner. One of the guards said. Barbara wasn't surprised. She wasn't security personnel, so she shouldn't be walking around here in the first place. The fact that she wasn't immediately driven away was already because she is the Commissioner's daughter. I have something very important to discuss with my dad face to face. Can you please go in and inform him? My dad usually turns off his phone when he's working, so I can't reach him. Barbara smiled and requested the guards. It's really something very important, and it's related to the Phantom Thief's notice. As soon as the guards heard the words Phantom Thief, their expressions changed, and they exchanged glances. If it's Commissioner Gordon's daughter, she's probably not here to play jokes. Besides, we're not directly letting her in, and we are just passing on a message, so it's not against the orders. The Phantom Thief is being discussed more and more in Gotham, and many people have said they have figured it out. But their explanations often seemed off and didn't make any logical sense. Over time, whenever the guards heard someone say they had deciphered the Phantom Thief's notice, they would usually just drive them away. But now, the person saying this was Barbara Gordon, the daughter of their direct superior. They couldn't ignore her and just send her away, could they? One of the guards opened the door and went into the control room to inform Jim. After a while, Jim ran out of the room and asked as he walked. Barbara, are you saying that you deciphered the notice? If I find out that you are joking and obstructing official duties, then I won't let you go to that late-night karate class anymore. Dad, think about it carefully. When have I ever lied to you while you were at work? Barbara frowned and said it with her hands on her hips. Then quickly tell me what information you solved. If you're right, I won't complain about you constantly changing your computer anymore. Seeing his daughter's confidence, Jim immediately asked and even promised a reward. He didn't doubt Barbara's ability to decipher the notice. As a father, Jim knew very well how smart his daughter was. In fact, when Barbara was in college, she didn't pursue library management as her major. Instead, she majored in things like criminal investigation, psychology, cryptology, and computer science. At first, Barbara wanted to follow her father's path and become a police officer. The reason she ended up as a librarian in the library was only because Jim was strongly against the idea of Barbara becoming a police officer and was extremely determined in his decision. He even used his connections to have the police academy reject Barbara's application, saying her height did not meet the standards. In anger, Barbara switched to studying library management and eventually got her doctorate. For a long time afterwards, father and daughter remained in a state of the Cold War. In short, Jim had trust in Barbara's personal abilities. Unfortunately, Commissioner Gordon didn't know that his daughter had found another way to continue this path. Barbara didn't disappoint Jim and explained the deciphering process of the notice. If 20 multiplied by 3 equals 4. Then I will visit at a non-existent time. When Mars has passed its 10th day and night. Following the guidance of Caesar. I shall come to claim the blood-stained egg. The meaning of the first line is to lead us to Roman numerals. As there is no zero in Roman numerals, it can be assumed that a non-existent time is equal to midnight at midnight o'clock. In the third line, Mars refers to March, and passing its 10th day is March 11th. In the ancient Rome exhibition hall, there is a Caesar statue pointing towards the direction of the Jungle Exhibition Hall, which is the guidance of Caesar. After a pause, Barbara continued, in short, Phantom Thief will appear at midnight on March 10th, which is equal to March 11th, at the Jungle Exhibition Hall, where he will start there and steal Mrs. Chandler's dragon's egg ruby necklace. When Barbara spoke in one breath, the officers around her were surprised for a while, and it took them a while to get back to normal. Wow, Ms. Gordon's explanation makes a lot of sense. It's not just sense, I think that's exactly what Phantom Thief's notice means. No wonder she's the commissioner's daughter, we've been trying to decipher it for days and couldn't get any clues, and she solved it all at once. The officers praised Barbara with admiration. Ignoring the flattery from his subordinates, Jim went through Barbara's explanation in his mind and found no loopholes before smiling with joy. With the exact timing of Phantom Thief's actions, GCPD could set up targeted security measures and wouldn't have to maintain high-level security for 15 straight days. This can not only save a lot of police resources but also prevent the cops from being too tired and always maintaining a high level of mental strength and mobility. I have a request, I hope you can agree, Dad. At this time, Barbara's expression suddenly changed, and she revealed the real purpose of her trip. I want to join in on the capture of the Phantom Thief as a temporary consultant or detective. What? No, it's too dangerous, I can't allow it. Gordon immediately rejected Barbara's proposal. Dad, you just saw my value, I can help you guys. You never agreed with me being a cop anyway. I just want to help, why do you have to refuse me? Barbara persisted. Of course, she didn't actually want to become a temporary consultant for GCPD. It was just an easier way to accomplish what she had planned in her mind. Phantom Thief has never killed anyone and has never intentionally harmed others. What kind of danger could I possibly face? Gordon was still hesitant, but Barbara played her last card. If you don't let me join your operation, I'll come to the museum that day on my own, and you won't be able to stop me from entering. Okay, you got me, but it's only for this one time. You can't leave my sight and cannot interfere with the work of others. With no other choice, Jim agreed to the plan and set some ground rules. With that, Barbara managed to infiltrate the GCPD security team, and despite Jim's restrictions, she was satisfied with the result. Meanwhile, at Gotham Academy, Dean felt like someone was watching him from behind. He knew it was Dick who had begun to suspect his true identity. From that moment on, Dean had to be even more careful about every move he made. Chapter 48, Invitation. If dreams do come true, I wanna hug a girl before I die. Denji, Chainsaw Man. After school, as usual, Dean packed his bag and was about to leave the school when Dick, who was sitting behind him, suddenly stopped him. Hey! Dean, wait a moment. Dean turned around to look at him and asked curiously, what's up? I know it might sound a bit sudden, but, do you have time tonight? Dick scratched his head hesitantly. Can I say I don't? Dean's eyelids twitched wildly. Well, actually, I was planning to invite you to Wayne Manor for dinner and also discuss the campus dance performance before spring break. You know, the only talent I have is acrobatics, but that's too dangerous and requires professional skills. The venue is not suitable for performing in schools. Dick coughed twice and confessed. So, I was wondering if you could teach me some interesting magic tricks so I can impress the girls. After listening to Dick's explanation, Dean showed a suddenly realized expression and then stared at him with disgust. I see now. But aren't you afraid of being caught by your girlfriend at the dance? Speaking of which, who is your girlfriend now? Leah? Emma? Corey? Or Jenny? Maybe all of them? I never thought this about you before, but now it seems you're a real player. He. Can you stop being so old-fashioned? Now is the era of free love, and breaking up and getting back together is normal. I haven't done anything wrong, so how am I a player? You make it sound like I'm so weird. Dick defended himself and then looked at Dean with disdainful eyes. The real weirdo is a guy like you who is about to graduate from high school and doesn't have a girlfriend yet. I really can't figure it out, so many girls have confessed their feelings to you, why don't you try to pick a few to get along with? At this point, Dick scrutinized Dean suspiciously. Wait, are you? Shut up. Dean was annoyed and immediately shouted at him to stop. In the years since he crossed over, almost 90% of Dean used his personal time to train his skills as a magician. He did this to earn the system's rewards and increase his chances of surviving future major events. He didn't have time to get involved in teenage romances. Relax, man, I was just joking. Dick quickly put on a smile and looked at Dean with anticipation. The school dance is scheduled for March 12th, and I don't have much time to prepare for my performance. So, please come to my house today, and as a token of gratitude, Alfred will prepare a delicious dinner. We've been friends for so many years, so please help me out, okay? Dean stayed silent for a few seconds, then shook his head helplessly. All right, I'll teach you a few simple magic tricks, but your dinner better be good. Well, before we go, I'll quickly head home and grab some magic props. Before he could finish speaking, Dick interrupted directly. No need. Wayne Manor has plenty of things. Time is precious, so let's head there directly. Alfred should already be here to pick me up. Dick grabbed Dean's shoulder to push him and ran toward the school gate without giving Dean a chance to speak. Dick pulled Dean forward, and he slightly squinted his eyes. He didn't believe Dick had suddenly invited him to Wayne Manor to learn magic tricks. After all, Dick was Robin, the sidekick of Batman, and he didn't need anyone to teach him how to impress girls with magic tricks. Even if he wasn't as skilled as professional magicians, it's more than enough to fool those little girls in school who don't know anything. Obviously, Dick was testing himself, although Dean wasn't sure yet what he intended to test. Dean kept his poker face on, pretending that he didn't know anything while his mind constantly imagined what might happen next and how to deal with it. At the school gate, Alfred really stopped beside a luxury car early, waiting for Dick to appear. When Alfred saw the two of them, Dean noticed a flash of surprise in Alfred's eyes when he saw him. Obviously, he didn't know that Dick was testing Dean. In this way, the person who doubts my identity is Batgirl. It's not that Batman is back. Dean thought to himself. When Dean eavesdropped on Dick's call before because he couldn't eavesdrop on Dick's voice wearing headphones, he couldn't guess the specific identity of the other person. Even if he removes Alfred based on Dick's words, he cannot be immediately sure that it is Batgirl. There was still a possibility that Batman had returned to Gotham using the unique teleportation technology of the Justice League, which allowed him to appear anywhere without any notice. Dean really didn't want to meet the father of DC, who was idolized by countless people in his previous life so early. The good news was that he could be sure now. If Batman was the one suspecting him, Alfred would surely know about Dick's plan to test him. It might even be an important part of their plan. Then Alfred would not be surprised when he sees Dean, and if he does show surprise, he must have pretended to be surprised after meeting him. The question now is, why would Batgirl suspect him? Dean ponders the fact that even Dick has spent the most time with him and has never suspected him. How could a Batgirl, whom he has never even met, suspect him? This kind of suspicion is absolutely impossible to come out of thin air. In Gotham City, there are at least 20 professional magicians who fit the requirements of the Phantom Thief, not to mention countless amateur street performers. What evidence could Batgirl possibly have to suspect him? There is only one possibility, that Dean has already met with Batgirl, and some exact parts led her to suspect him. Women I've met recently. Then, Dean suddenly recalls the encounter with Barbara at the library. It makes perfect sense if it is connected through the Roman parts on the notice letter and the fact that he had been reading books related to Rome. Dean once suspected that 3 people might be Batgirl. One is Bruce Wayne's cousin Betty Kane, one is Alfred's daughter Julia Pennyworth, and the last one is Barbara Gordon. At first, Dean thought that it was Betty because she was close to the Wayne family. Now, it seemed that Barbara was the real Batgirl. While Dick is explaining to Alfred that he wants to invite Dean to Wayne Manor for dinner, on the other side, a shadowy figure was slowly approaching the Sutton mansion. Chapter 49, Chapter 49, Secrets of the Sutton Manor. No one cared who I was until I put on a mask. Bane and Obito, The Dark Knight Rises, Naruto. Wayne Manor hasn't had guests in a long time, Master Richard. It's a good idea to invite friends. It will bring some life to the quiet house. If possible, I hope you can invite more friends in the future, especially friends from your school. After listening to Dick's idea, Alfred nodded happily. He excitedly turned to Dean and opened the back door of the car. Mr. Sutton, Wayne Manor is on the outskirts of the city, and it's a long way to get there. Get in the car, please. It will take some time to get where we're going. Thank you, Mr. Pennyworth. Dean replied naturally to show his gratitude. He didn't pretend and got directly into the car through the door Alfred opened. Dick also entered from the other side of the car. I'm really glad that Master Richard invited friends to come to the house. You may not believe it, Mr. Sutton, but you are the first person of your age that Master Richard has invited to Wayne Manor besides the girls he's dating. Alfred said as he sat in the driver's seat with a look of relief. I don't mean to say that dating girls is a bad thing, but I also don't want Master Richard's social circle to become like Master Bruce's, where it's all about women and never being able to make a true friend. I hope Master Richard can have more pure friendships. He's not saying this to criticize his own boss because everyone in Gotham knows about Bruce Wayne's romantic flings, and that's exactly the impression Bruce wants people to have of him. Is that so? Then I'm really honored. Dean didn't expect that he would be the first friend to be invited to Wayne Manor by Dick. Well, using the term friend doesn't seem quite right. A group of young superheroes called the Teen Titans had definitely been to Wayne Manor. So, it should be non-superhero friends. Speaking of the Teen Titans, it's a group of teenage superheroes. It was originally formed by the sidekicks of members of the Justice League and later expanded to include many independent teen heroes. It was formed about half a year after the Justice League, and Dick is the founder and leader of the Teen Titans. The Teen Titans don't appear in the news as often as the Justice League, mainly because they're all underage and still have to go to school to balance superhero life with school life. They usually only have time to gather and do activities together on weekends. But the other members of the Teen Titans are all very powerful, and it would make Dean miserable if Dick asked them to help. However, he knew Dick wouldn't do that. Just like Batman never lets the Justice League interfere in Gotham, they wouldn't easily interfere in someone else's city. Dean didn't quite understand this strange sense of territory. On the way to Wayne Manor, Alfred and Dean chatted casually. This allowed Dean to learn some secrets about the Wayne family. They were secrets, but nothing more than what most people in Gotham knew. The strange thing is that Dick, who originally invited him, suddenly fell silent at this moment and kept looking out of the car window without saying a word. As the sky darkened, night fell. At this moment, Dean's house, Sutton Manor. A person dressed in a tight black suit with a famous bat helmet and bat symbol on the chest quietly entered the small manor. The unusually eye-catching bat helmet and the bat logo on the chest clearly revealed the person's identity. Batgirl, Barbara Gordon. Why was she appearing at Dean's house? This goes back to when she and Dick pointed out Dean as a suspect for Phantom Thief earlier in the morning. Because Dick didn't believe that Dean was the Phantom Thief, they decided to test him. Their plan was for Dick to keep Dean occupied while Batgirl searched his home for any clues. Barbara had previously hacked into Gotham's real estate trading network and was sure Dean owned only the Sutton mansion. If Dean was the Phantom Thief, then most likely his equipment would be hidden there. It couldn't be flawless, even if Dean had set up a safe house under a fake identity. There must be some traces to follow. The reason why Dick chose to invite Dean as soon as school was over today was to try his best to prevent Dean from realizing that he was suspected and to leave the relevant clues at home in advance. Not long ago, Jim removed most of the guards in the museum because he knew when the phantom thief was committing crimes. Only a few guards stayed in the museum to keep watch. Barbara said goodbye to his father, using the excuse of attending a karate training class, and rushed to the Sutton Manor. The room was a bit messy, with items placed randomly. It looked just like an ordinary man's room, but the biggest difference was that despite the mess, it felt clean. Barbara went into Dean's room first and carefully looked at every corner. She opened the wardrobe and bedside table one by one, searching inside and even checking the pockets of each piece of clothing. People sometimes forget to take something out of their pockets, so even though it was unlikely, she had to look through all of them. After searching for a while, she didn't find any suspicious items, including any secret rooms. Then Barbara went to other rooms and looked everywhere in Sutton Manor. Finally, only the basement was left. With a bat flashlight in hand, Barbara cautiously descended the stairs and pushed open the door to the basement. Inside, she saw a wide space filled with a dazzling display of magic props, each with obvious signs of use. There were so many magic props that there was barely any space to move around in the basement. This should be Dean Sutton's practice area for magic. Barbara thought to herself. There was nothing wrong with placing these things in the basement, and Barbara could quickly tell that Dean had spent quite a long time practicing with these props. No wonder he became a famous and talented magician at such a young age. Barbara randomly searched through the piles of props and realized she wouldn't find any clues about the phantom thief here. It seems that Dean is not the phantom thief after all. I've suspected the wrong person. After searching for a while and finding nothing, a tired Barbara sat down against the wall in the basement, staring at the walls around her. At that moment, Barbara suddenly noticed something was off. Chapter 50, The Secret Room. Searching for someone to blame is just a pain. Gojo Satoru. Barbara walked to the left side of the basement wall and reached out to touch it, her eyes focused. If I remember correctly, based on the structure and size of this mansion, there should be quite a bit of space behind this wall. Thump. 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 Bang. Barbara pressed her ear against the wall and tapped it a few times with her hand. While knocking, she kept moving her position on the wall, and she suddenly heard a change in the tapping sound. This sound, something isn't right. At this moment, she was sure a secret room was hidden behind this wall. Why would Dean create a secret room in his own basement? Barbara's eyes sparkled with curiosity as she began searching for the switch to enter the secret room. The structure of this secret room isn't too complicated, so the entrance switch shouldn't be too far away. She moved her body so that she was just opposite the part where the strange sound was coming from, then extended her hand to continue touching the wall. After a few minutes like this, click. Suddenly, Barbara's eyes lit up as if her fingers had touched a triggering mechanism, and a different mechanical sound was heard. With a strong push, the part of the wall she was pressing against sank inside completely. Soon after, the wall in front of her began to vibrate slightly. With a rumbling sound, the wall opened to both sides, revealing an opening just big enough for a person to enter. The space behind the path was pitch black, and it was impossible to see what was inside. Quite a cliched design, but it does make things easier for me. Barbara looked at the entrance to the secret room with a bored expression. Let's see what secrets are hidden inside. Wait, what? As Barbara stepped into the secret room, holding a flashlight, her pupils instantly shrank at the sight before her. On the other side, Wayne Manor. In the low-key, luxurious dining room, Dean, Dick, and Alfred sat together at the table, enjoying a delicious dinner. Even though the dishes on the table were unfamiliar, Dean was still enjoying his meal. As they say, the food of the rich is indeed different from what normal people eat. How does it taste, Mr. Sutton? Do you like the food? Alfred asked with a smile. It's delicious, you're the best chef I've ever seen, Mr. Pennyworth. Honestly, I'm even thinking of finding a butler like you for myself. Dean complimented him after wiping his mouth with a napkin. But my house is not as big as Wayne Manor, and I can manage it well on my own. You flatter me, Mr. Sutton. Alfred responded humbly to Dean's praise. I don't mean to interfere with your life, but I want you to know that the role of a butler is not just about working chores and tasks. They can also be a trusted family member who is always there for you. I agree with you, Mr. Pennyworth. It's obvious that you are a trusted family member of the Wayne family. Dean nodded and suddenly had a thought. Perhaps I should find myself an assistant. I'm full. At this moment, Dick put down his knife and fork and looked at the others. Have you finished? Dean, when can we start the magic lessons? Dick, I know you're excited, but hold on a moment. Dean replied, also finishing his meal and putting down his utensils. I need to ask you a few questions before I start teaching you. They will determine what type of magic I will teach you in the final performance. Dean talked in a serious way, but his mind was on something else. It's been almost 3 hours since school ended, and Dick hasn't asked me any specific questions. He's acting like a typical teenager who really wants to learn magic to impress girls. Why hasn't he asked me anything about Phantom Thief? Dean thought that Dick would slowly drop a hint or even intentionally ask some sensitive questions to test his reaction. But from start to finish, Dick remained calm, and he didn't ask anything other than about learning magic. Dean couldn't help but feel that something was off. Could it be that he really just wants to learn magic? That's impossible, absolutely impossible. It doesn't match Robin's identity. He and Batgirl have already begun to suspect my identity. It's impossible that he's not doing anything at all. Thinking of this, Dean suddenly had a realization. He had almost forgotten Batgirl. Originally, Dean thought that Dick was the only one testing him, but now it seemed that Dick's task was only to keep him occupied. Since Batgirl is not here, she could only be in one place. At this point, Dean finally connected the dots. No wonder Dick mysteriously invited me to Wayne Manor, it was all to distract me so that Batgirl could check his house. After thinking about this, Dean didn't panic because he had expected this situation and had made arrangements at home in advance. Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, can you see the truth behind the illusion? Meanwhile, at Sutton Manor, in the secret underground room. The secret room was not too big, and it was filled with dust. Judging by the thickness of the dust, it seemed like no one had been in there for about half a year. The room was full of old pieces of furniture, like wardrobes and closets. Obviously, Dean had no use for a closet. As Batgirl approached the dressing table, she noticed that there were no skincare products on it. Instead, there was a black and white photograph standing upright. The photograph showed a couple, and above it were the words "Dear Parents." Besides this photograph, there were several pictures of the Sutton couple hanging on the walls of the secret room. For a moment, Batgirl's expression became extremely complicated. Her face showed a mix of heaviness, relief, and guilt. She knew what the old furniture and decorations in the secret room were. They were all memories that the Sutton family had left behind. Barbara was not surprised that Dean had specially built a secret room to keep his parents' belongings, as she had seen even crazier things before. As the saying goes, seeing objects reminds one of memories. If these items were placed openly in the house, it would easily trigger unpleasant memories and keep them drowning in the sadness of their parents' passing. Dean put these items together in the secret room and came in to look at them once a year or every 6 months. There was nothing wrong with this, and it was a good thing for Dean's mental health. It seems like I made a mistake, Phantom Thief is not Dean after all. Barbara looked down at the footprints on the dusty floor and sighed. Now I need to think about how to solve this problem.